welcome to 580 Sports Talk. I am Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero. That's Spencer Dupuis. On the other side of the glass, it is our summer intern, Trenton Kraxner. 4 full hours of 580 Sports Talk today. We're with you until 6 o'clock early this evening. What a sports weekend it was. What a weekend it was for the Kansas City Royals. Starting pitching was masterful. The offense came alive. They hit successfully with runners in scoring position over the course of a 4-game series. The bullpen was darn good, and they took 3 out of 4 from the division-leading Cleveland Guardians. We will get to every single angle of that series coming up today on 580 Sports Talk, what it means to this team, what it means going forward. We will also revisit some of our expectations from the start of June. Last month now, as it is July 1st, we will go back, look at what we thought they could accomplish, how they actually have done, and how that positions them as we head into the month of July. Big day in college sports today. It's Realignment Day. Yeah, officially Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah. You are members of the Big 12 Conference. Texas and Oklahoma, smell you later. They're in the SEC. Who is gaining the most? Who is losing the most with conference realignment other than, all the things that make college sports fun and special, other than all those things? That'll come up in the 3 o'clock hour today. Linkon Cure is going to make his announcement today where he is headed for his college football career. He's going to make that announcement at 4 o'clock. We'll have a live reaction for you as soon as that is done. We've got our monthly championship in What Is Wrong With You to get to. That is coming up in the 4 o'clock hour today as well. We didn't get that done on Friday last week, so we'll pick our monthly champion today. What a great way to start off the month with a bonanza of What Is Wrong With You, plus our 580 Sports Talk headlines, your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line, and your comments on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, and that's how you can subscribe to our channel. We'd love if you would do that. That would mean a whole lot to us. So go subscribe to the channel, and you can leave a comment for us on the YouTube feed as well. Don't forget, we are coming to you live, as we do every day, from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. How about those Royals this weekend? What an impressive showing. They did it in the close ones. They did it with starting pitching. They did it with offense. It was a bummer that Cole Reagans was not the best version of himself on Saturday, but even so, you take 3 out of 4 in any 4-game series, you're feeling pretty good. And when you are able to close the gap by 2 whole games, after you were down 9 in the standings entering the 4-game set, to jump up by 2 more, to win 3 against the best team wins-wise in the American League going into the weekend. Awesome week for the Royals. You could almost not ask for better. A sweep would have been nice, but I will happily take 3 out of 4.
Yeah, and like we talked about on Friday, after the Thursday win, it gave you a chance to get a little bit greedy and say, hey, a split would be fine, big picture, but let's go out and get 3 out of 4 and make Cleveland very aware that the Royals aren't going anywhere. And I think that was the statement that was made, even though the division deficit is still 7. And even though the Royals remained in 3rd place over the weekend because Minnesota's played some good ball of late as well.
They've also played 2 less games.
Yes, they've also played 2 fewer games, and they played worse competition, certainly in the month of June, than the Royals ended up playing. But you've delivered that statement, I think, that the Royals have shown in the 6 meetings this month in which the Royals went 4-2, and yeah, 4 of them were at home, 2 of them were in Cleveland, that there isn't much, if anything, separating Cleveland and Kansas City when the 2 teams are on the field. It might be 7 games in difference in the standings, but when those 2 teams lock up, there's not anything really, I don't think, separating the 2. And any advantages that Cleveland might have, certainly their bullpen, they've got some great hitters in their lineup for sure. Those are all mitigated by the Royals' big advantage. And I said it was their big advantage going into the series.
You called it.
The starting pitching. And the Royals won this series because they were better on the mound from inning 1 on. The only game they weren't was the one game in the series that you would have felt like was a toss-up, the ace-off on Saturday between Reagans and Bybee. And Reagans caught a pretty bad break at minimum and a cataclysmically wrong call at maximum on the home run that may not have actually been a home run off the bat of John Kenzie Noel. But outside of that, the Royals, we talked about Friday, get to Tristan McKenzie early. It's exactly what they did. And they beat him up so good, McKenzie got optioned to the minors over the weekend. That was it for Tristan McKenzie in the big leagues. And then yesterday, Seth Lugo out pitching Logan Allen in a way that you would have expected to have happen. The Royals didn't get to out. They scored early and then knocked Allen from the game with the 2 insurance runs in the 5th.
They cost 2 guys their jobs this weekend because what's his name? McCluggan, whatever his name was.
Matthew McConaughey, I believe.
Yes, he got axed. He got DFA'd. And I said, yeah, don't come back.
No, he was stinky. Like, if you watched Friday night's game and you saw McKeegan, I don't know. Don't need to know how to pronounce his name. Catch on somewhere else, buddy, because you've been DFA'd.
Mm-hmm.
If you watched him, you were duly unimpressed. And the fact that they made him eat all of the relief innings that night made it very clear. I in fact, texted a group of people I'm in a group chat with that had some interest in this weekend series. I said, that guy's not going to be on the roster tomorrow. I can almost guarantee it. And in fact, yeah, he was designated for assignment.
That was awesome. The starting pitching, again, bummer for Reagans. Probably should have been even better than it ended up being with the bad luck there. Seth Lugo was incredible. I mean, he was just absolute nails yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit more about Lugo coming up in a bit. But when you've got all of your dudes firing, and it's not like Reagans was unplayable. It's not like he gave up 10 runs in an inning or something. But when you've got Waka, who you can trust to get you into the second half of a game. We talked about that on Friday's show after the Thursday game. But Alec Marsh with good stuff. He was more than good enough in his outing. The starters were just absolutely sensational. They gave up in Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, the 3 wins, 2 earned runs.
Yep.
Waka, then Marsh, skip over Reagans, Lugo, those 3 wins, 17 and a third innings pitched, 2 earned runs. And they struck out a bunch of dudes. Lugo had 10 Ks yesterday. They were great. Let's give a little props to the bullpen as well. I think the starting pitching is what won this series because those guys were just absolute nails. This felt like a series I would have expected from the Guardians at some point because I still refuse to believe Stephen Kwan is actually that good or that any of their guys are actually that good.
You don't think he's suddenly Tony Gwynn?
No, I really don't. Like, he struck out another time, too. Twice in a weekend.
22% of Stephen Kwan's strikeouts this season came in this series.
That's incredible. That's amazing.
I've got a crazy stat about Will Smith. I don't know if any of you guys saw this.
I probably did not.
Will Smith allowed a grand slam to Adley Rutschman on April 19th. Since he's allowed 3 runs total.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's he's been not especially reliable, but he's been a lot better recently. This weekend, the bullpen, over the course of 4 games, 14 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 11 hits, 3 walks, 17 strikeouts. Ladies and gentlemen, that is an ERA of 3.21, a whip of exactly 1, and almost 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's great from your bullpen. Awesome stuff from them.
And even the 2 runs they gave up, I mean, with a 6-0 lead yesterday, like you can live with some seeing eye singles and those couple of runs off of Sam Long. He was out there throwing strikes and just got nickel and dimed a little bit. A double with eyes down the line, kicked off the glove of, I think that was Lofton playing third, and then the ball through the middle that got down. I think that that's not a big deal when you're up 6-2 to give up a couple of runs in the 8th inning.
Mm-hmm.
Not the worst thing that ever happened when they had to be really good in high leverage situations. I thought they were outstanding. So yeah, really good weekend for that bullpen. Limited the damage done by the heavies at the top of that order. You know, Kwan had a tough weekend. Jose Ramirez did Jose Ramirez stuff, but he always does, and he always will. He can be 75 years old. You need a walker to get to the plate, and he'd probably find a way to go 3 for 4 with a double and 2 RBI against the Royals. He's just a royal killer.
I think.
And the rest of the lineup, they kept him limited the rest of the way.
I think, too, for the Royals offensively, it's been hot lately, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ball is flying out of Kauffman Stadium. 7 home runs over the weekend.
Yeah, lots of pop.
2 each from Vinny and from Salvi.
Yeah, I thought it was really important for this offense to show off a little power, to show off a little pop. So they go 8 for 25 with runners in scoring position.
Which is a big upgrade from where they had been.
Do you know what that batting average is? Can you do any math in your head real quick?
320.
Would you take 320 as your batting average with runners in scoring position? That was like the first 5 weeks of the season for this Royals team, right? Like, awesome, great, much improved there, even with a game where they went 1 for 5 in the series. They had 36 hits in 4 games. That's 9 hits per game. That's really impressive for this team. 14 for extra bases.
Well, even then, I mean, I think it's more impressive because Thursday night's win was such a I don't know what the word I'm trying to find.
It was a pitcher's duel.
Yes, a pitcher's duel. It was a 2-1 win.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the offensive gates just opened.
Yeah, it was awesome. And you had star performance. Bobby Witt was great.
Triple yesterday.
Yeah.
I think he got around the bases in like 8 seconds
11.
or something.
Not quite that fast.
11 seconds.
It was slightly over 11 seconds, showing off the best in class speed that he has. You mentioned the home runs too. It looks like Salvador Perez is back on track after a pretty rough June, to say the least.
That homer he hit yesterday, change up low. That was not middle or anything. That was low. He had to go down and get that one. That was like a Trout home run. Mm-hmm. Mike Trout hits low ball home runs like nobody I've ever seen. Maybe Vlad Guerrero Sr., the only other one comparable. Salvi had to reach out and get that one, and it was a rocket. So that was really cool to see.
And when those guys are going well, and Pasquantino on top of that, who now leads the Royals and runs batted in, he's got 55 RBI, 1 ahead of Bobby Witt Jr. and 3 ahead of Perez. That means that the production that you get from anywhere else in the order, A, is a bonus, and B, it really stretches and really helps you win games. So when Hunter Renfroe hits a home run, or Kyle Isbell hits a home run, or Garrett Hampson kicks off the offense, an RBI double yesterday, along with Fermin there in that, I think it was the second inning where they had the RBI doubles that got the Royals kind of off and running in that game. Those contributions go a lot further when the big 3 in the lineup are doing the kind of damage that they are doing. And those guys really struggled the weekend prior. They're I think they about combined to go 0 for the Texas series. If it wasn't 0 for, it was damn close. So for them to turn around the next weekend in a big division series and perform and produce the way that they did, that was immense for the Royals to get this series win.
Can I proclaim something here?
Proclaim away.
The Royals are back. I regret saying everything I said.
You got to save that for on second thought on Friday.
The boy who cried cooked over here would like to...
Listen, I respect it. I respect admitting that maybe you jumped the gun a little bit.
I told you guys, as I told you on Friday, I'm very honest on the air. So I'm admitting to you right now that I did, in fact, miscalculate and misread this.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that we have come to that understanding, and I'm glad you were able to bring that forward. Trenton shared this with me earlier today. Hunter Renfroe, in his last 30 games, you know what he's OPSing in his last 30 games? So that includes that streak of 24 when he was red hot, and then since he's returned from the IL.
He's probably up over 800, 850, isn't he?
900.
I guess he's over 800.
Yeah.
Last 30 games since May. In his last 30 games, 287 average. That's really good. 368 on base. Yeah. 532 slug. That's an OPS of 900. If you go all the way to May 1st, the last 2 months flat on base percentage, 341.
And that's what you paid for, right? You paid for the power, and that's what we're starting to see. And what's fascinating is you look at Renfroe's advanced numbers. He is walking more now than he has since his early career, his time in San Diego and Tampa Bay, and he is striking out less than he ever has. So there's more contact. He does hit the ball hard. If he's making more contact, he can get to more of that power, and he is producing now at a level that I think the Royals probably expected. He's his OPS season long is up to 683, and that may not seem like much, but he was 713 last year. So this is about what the Royals thought they were going to get. A little bit of power, some production from the corner outfield towards the bottom third of their order. And Renfroe's been so good lately that he's been out of the bottom third of the order. He's been up to 5th.
Yeah, that bat is doing a whole lot of damage right now in the middle of the order. In fact, that's been really, really encouraging, really exciting to see from Hunter Renfroe. And it was funny when he was on the injured list saying, well, when Renfroe gets back, that'll jolt the offense. Well, it has. It has been very effective so far, even after he was so bad to start the year. So you've got 11 games left before the All-Star break. You get 3 at home. Then you go on the road for 8 games for the final 8 games of the first half of the season. For what it is worth, for those keeping track at home, You have 3 at home against Tampa starting tomorrow. 3 night games. They're not playing tonight. Then they will go on the road to the Factory of Sadness Rocky Mountain Edition, which is Coors Field, to see Dan's boys, the Rockies, for 3. 2 in St. Louis next week. 3 in Boston going into the All-Star break. Those are 11 games. I know Boston has not been, a total pushover. St. Louis has played much better baseball since the first month of the season. The Rockies are bad, but they're not impossible to lose to.
Didn't get swept by the White Sox.
Did not get swept by the White Sox.
Hanging the banner.
The Rays have also flirted with 500 for a majority of the season. There are winnable games here. Is there a number that you're looking for these final 11 games? If nothing else, I hope that the Royals are able to build on what we saw and what came to fruition this past weekend, where they needed to win that series with the Marlins. Absolutely had to, and said, I hope after that wild game on Wednesday last week, that crazy day game, that hopefully that series win can be parlayed into positivity going forward, and it can be positive momentum going into the Cleveland series. Well, it sure as hell was, and they were awesome this weekend in the Guardians series. Now you need that momentum to carry over into these final 11.
So when they played first place teams in the month of June, they went 8-8. They were 8-8 in their games against Cleveland and the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Mariners. Those are all first place teams as things currently stand today. I think Baltimore hasn't passed. Baltimore's tied the Yankees. Baltimore's ahead on percentage points
in the lead,
but it's percentage points. So we're going to go ahead and say that the Yankees are still a first place team.
How have the Orioles still played fewer games than everyone? Why did they have so many days off early?
Great question. Anyhow, 8-8 against the first place team. So you'd like to think as the Royals go into this stretch where they're playing Tampa Bay, who's a 500 team fighting for a wild card spot, St. Louis, who's right now holding the final wild card spot in the National League, and Boston, who is the closest competition right now to Kansas City for the final American League wild card spot.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like to think that in those 8 games, you can play over 500. You can go get 5 of those games. And 5-3 in that stretch, I think would be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Go get a series win in Colorado. You're talking about 7-4 and 56 wins going into the All-Star, 54 wins going into the All-Star break. Boy, howdy. That would be something else.
That would be
Considering
incredible.
that they won 56 all of last year.
Yeah, and what are they at in terms of road wins at this point this season? Are they still at 18 on the road? Let me double check that. On the road, they're 17-23. They won, if I remember correctly, 23 road games all last season. They will have more than 17. That'll be my bold prediction for the day. The Royals will indeed win at least one of their 8 road games before we get to the All-Star break. It's exciting. I know you guys are excited. Let us know your thoughts on this weekend series for the Boys in Blue. Hit us up either on the Top City Metal Supply text line, that number 785-272-9429, or find us on YouTube. Again, 580 Sports Talk is the name of the YouTube channel. You can also find our video stream at our website, 580wibw.com. On Facebook, the page there is WIBW News, and on Twitter, again, the handle there, at 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, Seth Lugo yesterday, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 10 strikeouts, and a big old goose egg on the scoreboard. No runs allowed. Should he start the All-Star game for the American League? We'll discuss next on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Just getting started on 580 Sports Talk today. Brendan, Dan, Spencer here with you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. We'll get to some Chiefs notes here in just a matter of moments. First, though, Seth Lugo. Can we all agree here? Seth Lugo's in the All-Star game. He's in.
Yeah.
I think we just need to bow down to him.
Yeah, I think that's
Our
a
Lord
given.
and Savior Seth Lugo.
Should he start the All-Star game? Here are some numbers for you. Okay, here's some rankings among Major League starting pitchers, all Major League pitchers this year, okay? ERA, first, 2.17 ERA. That's the best in baseball. His win total. Do wins matter? You could argue that, but in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about All-Star game starter, yeah, wins matter. He has 11. That's the most in baseball. Quality starts, 14 of them in 17 outings.
15 and 18 now.
No, that was after.
After yesterday's game. So it's 17.
Came out.
Either way.
Now he started 18 games this year.
No. Okay, well, 14 and 18 then. My mistake. It is 14 and 18. Either way, he is tied for the Major League lead in quality starts for the season. And then you want to toss in this other one, which is maybe the most amazing to me. Do you remember his career high in innings pitched entering this year?
146 and a third.
146 and a third innings. He has already pitched 116. He has almost reached that threshold already. We are not even to the All-Star break, and he's been this good. I have a little worry about being able to hold on and, staying stable and sturdy throughout the entire season, given the fact he's never gone that deep as a starter before. But holy cow, guys, he has been incredible. He has legitimately been the best starting pitcher in Major League Baseball this year. And even relative to the other guys who could start in the American League in the All-Star game, I'm going Lugo. I think he's been that good. I think he has earned it. And I never would have guessed that.
So one thing I found to be interesting, Cole Reagans has only had 3 dud starts all season. It was a game against Baltimore at home back in April where he got shellacked and left the game in the second inning. There was the outing in Los Angeles, that Saturday afternoon game where he gave up the early home run to Adele and he didn't make it through the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Saturday where he wasn't really at his best and was pulled in the 5th inning as well. Seth Lugo, after those most recent 2 outings where Reagan struggled, has picked up the number 1 starter on this team and been brilliant. Against the Angels, I think that was the game where he went 8 innings. Might have been 8 shutout innings. And he struck out 11 guys. And then, of course, he strikes out 10 in 6 shutout innings yesterday. Your ace, your number 1 starter is supposed to be your stopper. That's a term that gets thrown around a little bit when you're talking about baseball, where if you are in a losing skid, if you're in a bad way, your number 1 is the guy who picks you up and gives you those strong innings and gives you a chance to win a game and right the ship. The Royals have 2 of those guys because when Reagans has faltered, Lugo has had his back and been the stopper and made sure yesterday that the Royals could still win the series. The Guardians had a very real chance coming off of Saturday's win to get out of Kansas City with a split, and they would have felt fine about that. The Guardians would have been much happier with a split than the Royals would have, particularly after losing Friday night.
Right.
They would have been thrilled to get Saturday and Sunday and get out of Dodge with the same cushion they had over the Royals when the week began. And Seth Lugo would not let that happen. He has been absolutely outstanding this season. And while I still believe that Cole Reagans is the Royals' best starting pitcher, the fact that it's even a conversation is a testament to how sharp Lugo has been. Early in the season, we were worried about the strikeouts. He's starting to rack those up in high numbers again after his first 4 starts. He wasn't missing any bats.
Yep.
He's going deep into games, giving you those 6 innings, that magic number for Royal starters, so they don't have to overtax the bullpen. And for me, I would choose him to start the All-Star game because I do think that All-Star game starters should be the guy who is having the best year, being the most stable and sturdy and dependable starting pitcher in the league. I think that guy should start the All-Star game. And I think in the American League, I think that guy is Seth Lugo, with all due respect to some really good ones. I mean, Corbin Burns of Baltimore has been great.
Tark Skubal
for Detroit, been outstanding. Tyler Anderson's having a great year for Los Angeles. He'll be their only All-Star. And he'll be, I think, a candidate. Tanner Houck for Boston. But make mine Seth Lugo. He has just been awesome, and he's been just what the doctor ordered for this team. I mean, has there been a better free agent signing in all of baseball than Seth Lugo? Has anybody been more worth the money? I mean,
Shohei?
Well, okay.
Yeah, but ideally you'd want him doing everything he can possibly do.
Let's say value per dollar.
Yes, if you're
on a value per dollar basis, I think you could argue that Lugo has provided more value, bang for the buck, let's say.
We're grading on the coach of the year scale. It's not always the best overall coach who wins coach of the year, right? It's best season relative to expectations.
Yeah.
If you're grading on that scale, then yes, it's Seth Lugo, and it's not even close. And it's interesting too, Dan, that you bring up the point about being the stopper after an iffy start from Cole Reagans. Even for himself this year, he has had, I would say, 3, not even fully dud starts, but just 3 starts that weren't great. Back on April 21st, he gave up 4 earned runs, only struck out 1, went 5 1/3 innings. Next time out, 7 innings, 3 hits, no runs allowed, struck out 9. That was all the way back in April. Start of June, his first 2 starts of the month of June, combined 13 innings pitched, 9 earned runs allowed, just 9 total strikeouts, and gave up 14 hits. Not great. And that's when I started to think, okay, he's been great still, but maybe this is the time of year where we see a little fatigue set in his arm because he hasn't pitched this long before. Since then, since those first 2 starts of the month, he is 2-0. The Royals have won 3 of those games. 24 2/3 innings pitched, only 18 hits, has walked 7, 4 earned runs, struck out 30. That is an ERA in the last 4 starts of 1.46. That is absolutely stellar. And just for what it's worth, if you wanted to take a look at the strikeouts per 9 in that segment as well, you're looking at almost 11. He's been great. And every time you think, bump in the road, he comes back better than he had been before.
And the thing that has given him a chance to be really good game in and game out is that he avoids the 2 things that there is no defense for. He doesn't walk anybody, and he does not give up home runs. He is avoiding the long ball better than he ever has in his career. Just 9 home runs and 116 innings pitched. And he's got his best walk rate since the 2019 season when he was exclusively a reliever with the Mets. He's walking just 2.1 batters per 9, 27 walks in 116 innings. That's below his exemplary career walk rate of 2.4 walks per 9. You throw strikes, you keep the ball in the ballpark, and you miss bats, you're going to be pretty damn good game in and game out. And that's what Seth Lugo has been.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
One other point I want to make, too, about the value of him as a signing. And we said this when he was signed, that you're maybe not getting a Cy Young candidate. That's kind of funny in retrospect, because right now he is absolutely that. But signing Seth Lugo and at the time giving the Royals a veteran, experienced starting pitcher with the ability to miss bats and the ability to stay in the strike zone, it was so needed for the Royals to have a guy like that. So it pushes everybody back in the rotation. You were less reliant on that day. You became less reliant on Daniel Lynch. You became less reliant on a comeback for Chris Bubich. You became less reliant on Jordan Lyles. You became deeper. And the more guys you have in your starting rotation who are steady, who are solid, and right now the Royals have 5 out of 5 guys. They maybe don't have a prime Randy Johnson level ace, though Cole Reagans has been pretty awesome this year. Especially if you look at the advanced numbers. They've got 5 guys to give you a chance to win every single game they take the ball. And what that does for your team, what that does for your clubhouse, that's what makes winning teams. Not just the quality of pitching that you're getting, but the belief that you have every day you show up to the ballpark. Not, oh man, we're going to have to score 10 runs today because Jordan Lyles is on the mound. Oh my gosh, we're in trouble today because the other team's starting to stud and we got just some guy on the mound. No, the Royals come to the ballpark every day, I guarantee you, believing that whoever has the ball is going to give them a chance to win. And the effect of that goes well beyond the numbers.
Look, back to Seth Lugo here. I, for one, did not realize Seth Lugo is 34 years old.
Yeah, I mean, he had been a guy for his whole career.
He also rejected a 4-year deal, right, to the Padres in December, I believe, to sign this 3-year with a player option at $15 million a year. So look, even if he doesn't have a great season next year, that's still a win in the contract. You're paying
definitely
him $15 million for what he's been able to do this year.
And he is. Did we confirm? I know I asked the other day. Is he for sure under contract next year as well?
That's what it says. It says he signed a 3-year, $45 million contract with his 2026 season being a player option.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, that's even if he's 80% of this come next year, that is an unbelievable deal struck by JJ Piccolo. Here's a bigger picture question for you. Where does this Royal staff rank among the entire American League? Which, in terms of production this year?
In terms of production this year, I would probably only rank Seattle ahead of them. Maybe New York. New York's had a really good 1 through 5. Seattle's 1 through 4 has been outstanding. It's been that 5th spot that they've sort of struggled to fill because of injuries. But like the level of production, they've got like Brian Wu and Emerson Hancock probably equal to greater than Alec Marsh.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees, they had Garrett Cole back. It's not gone great, but like Gill has been really good. Stroman's been exactly what you pay Stroman to be. Nestor Cortez has been solid again. Rodon's been whatever. Man, looking now by the numbers, I might have to say I'd take the Royals over. I mean, Seattle's, I think, the only one I could really argue.
I am fine with that, to be honest with you. And I think when you're talking more projectable stuff, because that's what we've said a lot with Cole Reagans, and Reagans has been really good. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but saying, well, who would you start in a single game at this point? Lugo has probably earned that, but Reagans has the best stuff. I think he's got the most pure talent of anyone on this staff.
The only weird thing about, I'm sorry to interject.
No, go ahead.
The weird thing about Reagans, I mentioned he's had those 3 duds,
and
in all of those duds, he's been going up against a guy who is probably going to the All-Star game or has a case to go to the All-Star game.
Interesting.
Because it was against Burns, against Baltimore, it was against Tyler Anderson for the Angels, it was against Tanner Bybee for Cleveland. And I wonder if going into those ace matchups, like you wouldn't bill Tyler Anderson as one of those, but effectively he has pitched like one this year for the Angels. I wonder if maybe Reagans is putting a little too much on himself to
over pitching,
maybe over pitching a little bit in some ways. I think mentally you can feel like you need to go up a level when the baseline Cole Reagans level is just fine,
right?
And in fact, more than fine.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And he's still a young guy. You're more prone to that when you're younger,
Major
right?
League season as a starter,
And he's been this good. That is just utterly ridiculous to think about. Coming up on the other side of this commercial break, we've got some Kansas City Chiefs notes to get to, an update on Charles Omenihu. Chris Jones spoke recently, and what is the latest outlook for Arashi Rice suspension? We'll tell you all about it after this on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer, and Trenton here with you. This is 580 Sports Talk. Matt Verderame is going to join us next hour to talk all things National Football League here on the show. One NFL insider, Jeremy Fowler of ESPN, took to the Sports Center airwaves this weekend and offered an interesting thought on what could or might not be happening for Rashee Rice. This is what he said. Quote, most people I've talked to around the league believe that Rice will, get a multi-game suspension at some point, given all that's gone down. This is a lengthy legal process, which means he could start the season, actually play games, or finish the whole year, because the league likes to see the full scope of things before they make a decision on how many games a player might face. We saw that with Alvin Kamara a couple of years ago when he had his battery charges. He played the whole year, then was suspended the next year. So that's a possibility that the Chiefs are bracing for here. They just don't know. Goes on to say he was an active participant in the Chiefs' offseason workouts. I was told that was a safe haven for him. After all that he's dealing with off the field, it was a relief for him to be on it. He was considered a consummate teammate while there, and now the Chiefs wait on a potential NFL suspension. I think it goes without saying that the regular season offensive ceiling for the Chiefs is a lot higher if Rashee Rice is on the field for all 17 games.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
A lot higher. And I don't think that, if you go back to 2019, remember who the second round pick was of the Chiefs in 2019?
2019. Was that the first draft for Veach?
Second.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't Breland Speaks.
It was not Breland Speaks.
Tano Passanio, right?
No, he was the Mahomes draft, 2017.
Yeah, he was even the year before. I went backwards and not forwards.
He's a current Chief?
Mecole Hardman.
Why did the Chiefs draft Mecole Hardman?
Because they thought Tyreek Hill was going to get ultra super mega suspended.
Yeah, double secret probation for Tyreek Hill. So they drafted Mecole Hardman as an insurance policy, and Hill still played, and then they just had speed. They tried to do the Legion of Zoom thing. That never really caught on, but they did win the Super Bowl that year. I don't think Xavier Worthy was a draft pick like that. Like, the Chiefs needed to draft a wide receiver. I would have taken two, no matter what. But now, if you are legitimately thinking, dang, we might have Rashee Rice this entire season, a season in which we might not have to put a ton on Xavier Worthy's plate right away, and we know what we're going to get with Hollywood Brown. We know what we're getting with these other guys. That changes the entire outlook, I think, of what your offense can be, especially at the beginning of the season. We know how difficult it is to learn the wide receiver part of the playbook for the Chiefs. You've got to know everything. Every receiver who has come through has talked about it. One player who is like, oh, yeah, this is easy. You know who that was? Also Mecole Hardman. Probably shouldn't have said that, or at least say that and then don't spend all of your off time at the zoo and maybe read the playbook a little bit. But that's neither here nor there. And it's not just him. Like, I remember Packers fans love to make fun of the Bears for this when Justin Fields said, oh, the game's really slowed down for me before he had ever taken an NFL snap. Well, he was traded for pocket lint this offseason. So if I was advising young players, I would say, do not say this ever, because it's just going to blow up in your face. But if you had to start Xavier Worthy and he was legitimately going to be wide receiver 2 for you to start the season, or even 3, okay, like he's going to have to take on a big role, but you just hope that you can ease him in as much as you can. If Rashee Rice is there and a full go for the start of the season and certainly for the entire season, I mean, there's no reason this shouldn't be a top 5 offense to me.
And there's precedent here, right? As far as the NFL goes, that they're happy to let things play out and wait to suspend a player. Alvin Kamara went like 18 months,
right,
between the battery charges against him and his ultimate suspension. He played a full season in between that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not entirely an unprecedented thing that Rashee Rice and the Chiefs might be dealing with, where the NFL might slow play this and let the legal system have it say and take their time on their investigation. They're not in a rush to bring the hammer down here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that could, I mean, it seems weird to say, yes, it would actually be good for the Chiefs in 2024 if this person who is going to be suspended in all likelihood doesn't get suspended for another year. It's a strange thing, and it feels weird to be like positive about it. But yeah, if this is how it breaks, it obviously helps the Chiefs, just like it helped the Saints when Alvin Kamara played a whole year with charges hanging over his head.
Yeah, it would be absolutely massive. A couple other Chiefs notes to get to here. Charles Omenihu spoke this weekend about getting back to his, regular physical strength level after tearing his ACL during the AFC Championship game this past year. Omenihu spoke to Aaron Wilson of KPRC2 television in Houston about his recovery and said, quote, "It's going good. Slow process. Everybody told me it would be like that, but it's been decent. Honestly, right now, I'm steady. I'm cool. I got to be like this. I kind of keep myself like that. Just stay plain, and we'll get to the point where I ramp it up like that." So, he has gone on social media and posted those videos of him doing deadlifts or whatever it was, looking like, oh, yeah, I'm good to go. I can take off. I'll be all set here. That's a big deal if the Chiefs get him back earlier than you would expect. I don't think he'll be back in the first half of the season. I'm expecting this will be the colder month, like November or later by the time he comes back. He tore his ACL so late in the year. Even if he's back in November, that's a 10-month recovery for a dude that big, and he's a good athlete. I don't know if he's got that Adrian Peterson ability to, regenerate his limbs. He was also probably on HGH, but again, I digress. If you get back in 10 months, that'd be a win for the Chiefs. If you get him for the second half-ish of the year, I think you feel great if you're Kansas City. That would be my optimistic timeline. And if King Felix can take any sort of step forward this year, he does not need to start. He just needs to be end 3. He needs to be the sub-package guy. He needs to come in and spell Mike Dana once in a while. If Felix can be that good, then you're fine waiting on Omenihu to be 100% healthy.
Yeah, and they dealt with this last year with Omenihu, so it's nothing new. It was obviously different circumstances, but they dealt with and survived, I think, in a sense, not having him. And they should be better equipped to handle his absence this year because, one, you've got everybody coming back, and two, you have Felix and Udike Uzama, in theory, more ready to produce and play a bigger role. So I do. I think it leaves you in a spot where this is a little bit more survivable, and Omenihu shouldn't feel like he has to rush back. Now, look, he's going to try because that's what every athlete does. That's how they're wired. He doesn't want to miss any more time. He's already had injuries in his career. He had the suspension last year. He is wired to try and get back as soon as he possibly can. But the Chiefs are under no obligation to rush him themselves and rush him back on the field because they should be in better shape to weather the time without him even than they were last year.
So that's obviously, you want him back as soon as you can, but there's no need to rush it, which is a good spot to be in. You don't want to have to rush it. Also, speaking to the media recently, Chris Jones spoke at his youth football camp this past week, spoke to our guy Jesse Newell about this offseason. Here's what he had to say. Quote, "I've already been talking to Andy about it. Let me skip out on training camp. I'm a little older, right? I can feel it. I can feel when we have a day on training camp. Give me like 2 days off and then 1 day on. Maybe we can work something out."
I can't tell if he was being super serious or super joking.
You have not covered Chris Jones long enough to maybe know that he is never being serious.
No, it's always jokes all the time. He added on to this, quote, "He just looked at me." So the conversation is still ongoing. Realistically, Chris Jones is right. Like, I don't necessarily want Chris Jones going full speed every single day in training camp. I also don't really want Travis Kelce doing that. Frankly, I don't know how many of the guys on the starting, in the starting group I want doing that every single day. But here's the thing about Andy Reid's training camp, and here's the thing about the guys who have been on this team and have been core parts of this dynasty. Andy Reid is going to run training camp the same way every single year until he dies. It will always be the same, and it is going to be intense, and it is going to be a struggle. It is not going to be for the weak of heart or the weak of stomach. I'm going to call it right now. In a couple of weeks, when we chat with Mitch Holthus for the first time, right, and we have our first training camp report with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, we are going to hear from him, and he is going to say that this is why the Chiefs are so good in September and into October and so good to start campaigns because they are ready. They don't have to go through the ramp-up period like teams that give tons of guys days off do, like guys who never play their preseason player or their starters in the preseason. They are going to be conditioned and they are going to be ready, and it has worked for this team. And Chris Jones, obviously mostly joking here, but the fact that he is buying in and has always bought in when he's been under contract to going full bore in training camp. That means something. The fact that Travis Kelce wants to go full steam ahead, full speed ahead every year in training camp, that means something. And I know that sounds meathead of me, but it's true. That has been a core part of this team. And I don't blame Chris Jones for trying to get, an extra day off. But when push comes to shove and we get into late July, early August, I think he'll be out there doing every workout every single day. I would not be surprised if he's cool with that too, because it's worked for this team.
Yeah, it's with certain players, you're not trying to get the best out of them in August. Like there are going to be some players you do need to get more out of in August. You're trying to sharpen them to get the best out of them by week 1 to make sure that they're ready to go, that they're up to speed, newcomers, rookies, new starters, new position guys, things like that. Chris Jones is not one of those guys. Chris Jones is a plug and play.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Jones is, you'll be ready to rock week 1. I know you will be.
Yep.
He's in the same class as a Travis Kelce and a Patrick Mahomes. Those guys have all earned that.
They're in the trust tree. They're in the inner circle. You're good. You're not worried about those guys. They're always going to be prepared. They're always going to be ready. We are ready to get to a news break here at the top of the hour. But when we come back, it is realignment day in college sports. The big winners and big losers of all the changes. That's coming up right here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. now, 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk here on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Even the spam bots watching our video stream on the Facebook page, we appreciate you for at least giving us a click today.
What language do you think that is?
I have no idea. Our guy, Ugan Jr.
I'm going to go ahead and delete the comment.
Yeah, no, that's fine. A little spammy. Even so, even if you're a spam bot, thanks for watching and listening along.
If you don't have, there are two things that if you ain't got, you ain't popping. One is haters. The other is spam followers.
Especially if you have a Twitter account. It's unavoidable at this point if you have a Twitter account, in fact.
That is a fact.
Trenton, are you trying to... Your microphone is on, but we are not hearing you. All right. Haitian Creole? Okay. All right. I would not have guessed that.
Nah, me either.
We'll get the microphone figured out here next time we have a commercial break. Here in this 3 o'clock hour of the show. It's realignment day for college sports. Everybody, find a new partner. We're speed dating here. Everybody's got to find someone new.
I kind of regret that I was not watching when the Pac-12 network signed off overnight.
Me too.
Yeah.
I turned it on the yesterday. I was curious, like, what are you showing? They were showing
That's
Oregon's women playing and beating Team USA back a couple of years ago when they had, what's her name? Sabrina Ionescu. And they were the number one team in the country. They beat Team USA on their fall tour. And then I think they showed a bunch of like Washington State and Oregon State stuff to wrap up, which is appropriate. And then they just went dark. And that was the end. There was a really sad scroll at the bottom. Like, we have concluded broadcasting live sporting events. Like, aw.
Longhorn Network also sunsetted yesterday. Do you know what the final thing they aired on the Longhorn Network was?
Was it the 2005 Rose Bowl?
Yes, it was. Listen, it's maybe the greatest college football game of all time.
Yeah, that game slaps. Like, they should play it as often as they did.
They did all the time. So we'll get to realignment day here momentarily. We'll have the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend, and Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated will join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. If you have not gone and subscribed to our YouTube channel, it would do so much for really, like, just my emotional well-being. Head over to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, subscribe to the channel while you are there. You can watch along with the show, check out all the old shows, our whole old backlog of shows. We are looking forward to that, putting out all sorts of more good stuff on the YouTube channel. So go subscribe. Again, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. And the Top City Metal Supply text line is open. 785-272-9429 is that text line number. From construction sites to renovations, from the farm to the garage, Top City Metal Supply understands the value of precision and cost efficiency. No more wasted materials and no more wasted money, folks. Just metal cut to the exact size that you need. Top City Metal Supply is located on South Topeka Boulevard, just north of Forbes Field. It's realignment day, as I mentioned. As of today, the Power 5 has become the Power 4. So let's run through the inventory one time, shall we? Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, they are now all members of the Big 12 Conference. Texas and Oklahoma, they are in the SEC. Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA, they're now in the Big 10. Cal, Stanford, and SMU are now members of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Again, California, Stanford, which is in Palo Alto, California, and SMU, which is in Dallas, Texas. They are now in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
That's going to take a lot of time to get used to.
Oh, yeah. A lot of time. The Pac-12, as we know it, is gone. Those rights are still owned by Washington State and Oregon State. They are still members of that conference, but for all intents and purposes, it's not around anymore.
They also today joined the officially as associate members, the West Coast Conference.
For all... It's non-football, non-baseball, right? I think is what it is.
12 sports. I do know that.
I think they're doing baseball with the Mountain West too. I think. But don't necessarily quote me on that. That is my understanding of the situation anyway. So
I will pull that up. They are affiliate members in men's and women's basketball, women's soccer, volleyball, men's golf, women's cross country, and I jumped me on the page, and women's rowing. Oregon State will also play men's soccer and softball. Wazoo will compete in women's tennis and men's cross country. So yeah, not baseball and not football.
Which they will compete alongside the teams from the Mountain West Conference.
Which now has a multi-year agreement, the Mountain West does, for football to True TV and streaming on Max.
Yeah, they're getting over to the Turner channels for some of their games now. We should also note, just while we're going over all these changes, Conference USA now has 10 teams because Kennesaw State is moving up. That is official as of today. Also, locally, the MIAA officially got one school bigger today with the addition. Well, I guess it didn't get one school bigger. It just changed membership. Lincoln is headed to the GLVC. Arkansas, Fort Smith, the Lions, they are now members of the MIAA. They are full members, but they do not play football at Arkansas, Fort Smith. So from the Power 4 perspective now, from the Division I major college football perspective, which conference made out the best with their new acquisitions?
It has to be the SEC, doesn't it? I mean, 2 more name brands in football, which is the driving force behind all of this. And yes, I say name brands specifically because Texas and Oklahoma football are still a capital B big, capital D deal, even if Texas, well, maybe they're back now. Who can say? But they did make the playoff last year, but in recent years have been a little bit more hype than actual production.
Oh, yeah.
And we might be moving into that era with Oklahoma, too, where they may be taking a bit of a step back from the perennial playoff team that they were towards the end of their time in the Big 12. So they are, however, outstanding football traditions and great fans, full stadiums, brand names that strengthen the SEC's brand as the football league, which is the thing you want to be right now, because all of this is happening because that's where the money is. The money is in football. The TV deals are in football. The eyeballs are in football. And football is how any of the schools continue to make the arrow point up and to the right.
I probably agree. The Big Ten is adding, Oregon, Washington, okay, big programs, USC, UCLA, big rivalry, big programs, all those things. It feels faker. I don't really know what word to use, but it's something about it feels less like, not wholesome. None of this feels wholesome. It all feels gross, but it just feels kind of empty almost.
Yeah, it feels like something is being grafted on to the Big Ten instead of being absorbed.
Yeah, no, that's true. Whereas it feels like Texas and Oklahoma feel like SEC teams now. I mean, not fully. It's a few hours old effectively, but that's what they feel like. It does feel like, oh, this is just the West Coast edition. This is the expansion pack. It's not the base game.
DLC.
Yeah, this is the downloadable content. You can play the regular game without having it, but you just tacked it on for an additional fee.
The Big Ten is changing their football division. They're going away from division.
I think everyone is. Yeah,
they I believe announced that before they ever announced the addition of new schools. They were already going to go away from divisions because what divisions was giving them was lopsided conference championship football games.
Yep.
And that's not, again, trying to make the arrow go up and to the right. It's hard to sell your football conference as being legit when you've got one division that works and another division that stinks.
Yeah, and Iowa making it to your Big Ten championship game just to get their brains beaten in every single year.
Hi, 2022 Purdue.
Let me make an argument. I don't know if I necessarily would say I truly think these are the conferences that made out the best, but let me make an argument for 2 others. The ACC's argument would be, well, in fact, they actually have kind of the same argument. Stability. Because the ACC, by adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU, do you think that was anything other than a proactive move?
No.
Florida State's trying to get out of that league.
Clemson wants out too. Yeah,
North Carolina wants out.
I suppose that's the argument, but I think that argument gets undermined by the fact that you've got Florida State actively suing and trying to figure out if they can get out of the grant of rights. I think the stability argument, and I don't mean to step on your toes here, Brandon, but I think the stability argument is much more easily made by a conference like the Big 12, where everybody sort of feels like they know where they stand and they're pulling on the same rope together.
Yes, and that's definitely the stronger argument in that vein. The Big 12 has, or the All-State 12, or the Bucky's 12, or whatever it's going to be, established itself by making these moves as number 3. And as much as I am sick of doing the conference business talk, because we've done it for so many years at this point and it's grating, and I want to get to the football, the basketball, whatever, being able to say we have a seat at the table and we're never going to have the kind of power and influence that those other conferences have, but we're here to stay. We're not going to fall apart. We've got TV deals that we like. We're on the cutting edge, for better or for worse in certain cases. There's a lot of value to that. There is one league, one of these conferences that reignited a rivalry and brought back history by realigning. It's not the Big Ten. US.
The SEC did. Texas A&M, pretty big deal.
I suppose that's true. Okay, fair enough. They are in that conversation. The Big 12 also did that, though. One of two. It doesn't happen all that often, but bringing Colorado back, where it's going to play all the teams that it played for 60 years previously, I do think there's value in that. But so yeah, that argument is stronger for the Big 12 than the ACC.
And the Holy War's conference game again. Don't forget
That's
that.
true.
Utah and BYU, they're conference mates again, first time in a very long time. So that comes back, and that becomes a conference game.
Which, as much as Utah would rather never even think about BYU, or at least a lot of their fans and administration would like to just never think about BYU, that's got to be a plus for both teams, right? Because that frees up non-conference scheduling.
Yes.
And you can either schedule another power conference team, or you can go play
Weber State,
or go
Do they
for
even
a
have
trip
football?
and go.
I genuinely don't know.
Oh yeah, they've been a playoff team a few times.
Okay.
I think they might have been this year, in fact. Yeah, they have football. It should be Weber though. I don't know who Weber was, but it looks like Weber.
That's what I've always thought.
Yeah, no, it is Weber. A kid from Weber State got drafted in the NBA draft. Anywho, that's beside the point today. So that's the argument for the Big 12 and being the one that gained the most out of all of this. So what is then the best thing that each of these conferences gained outside of money and dollar bills from the Disney Corporation? Like, if you look at Big 10, SEC, Big 12, ACC, what is the best thing that each of those gained? And I think this is an interesting question because I feel like you can kind of spin it in countless ways almost.
I think that there is a firm identity now for everyone but the ACC. I think that the ACC no longer really has much of an identity.
No.
When Atlantic is in your name, like for me, that's even more egregious than the Big 12 having 16 teams.
Yeah.
Like we're used to, like the Big 10 has had more than 10 teams for going on 3 decades now, ever since they added Penn State. Like it's not weird anymore. Like it's weird, but it's just part of it. The Atlantic Coast Conference having 2 teams in California and 1 in Texas is bazonkers. Like that will never, ever make sense. So that is a conference that does not have an identity right now.
Mm-hmm.
The SEC has an identity. They're the football league. They are the best football in the country is played here in the SEC. We have the tradition. We have the history. We have all these national champions. We're going to send 4 teams to the playoff, 12-team playoff every year. We're the big deal. We are the football league. If you are looking for the best football matchups in any given week, chances are we've got them. We've got football.
Mm-hmm.
And look, they're also pretty great at a lot of other sports. Like, did you happen to catch the College World Series? That was a half SEC, half ACC affair, 2 SEC teams in the title game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of SEC presence in the national championship of softball, too. That championship matchup will be an SEC matchup moving forward. Basketball. SEC basketball has leveled up significantly.
Because they had all that football money. And so might as well spend it on basketball.
Leveled up significantly the last step, I would say half decade or so, and will continue to be compelling and add programs who within the last decade have been to a Final Four and an Elite Eight in Texas, because Texas has not been to a Final Four rather famously. Rodney Terry did not get that done. They lost.
Nor did Rick Barnes, who had Kevin Durant and didn't get past the first weekend.
Right. But
people forget that.
But they are, I think their brand is football forward, but they are the best conference in America. For the Big Ten, they are the coast to coast conference. they are the league with the West Coast presence and the East Coast presence and all points in between. And the schools that they've added don't feel out of place geographically, certainly, but in terms of like the quality of institution we're talking about here, do not feel out of place with the league that has Michigan and the league that has Northwestern and the league that has like Penn State and the league that has, Ohio State being the flagship of that state, and Purdue, a great engineering school. Like they feel like they've added institutions that make sense with what the Big Ten has always been, and they are now the coast-to-coast conference.
I'm sorry, okay, go ahead.
Wake up, Big Ten. Pour up, Big Ten. Go to sleep, Big Ten.
Yeah, they're the sun never sets on the Big Ten empire, right? Like that's what they are. The funny thing, though, that you mentioned, and that's true, like the 4 schools that the Big Ten added academically are tremendous universities. Oregon's got to be the worst one, and I mean Oregon's a good school, right? And I know Washington's a great school. USC, UCLA both obviously are. The funny thing about that is that academics mean less than they've ever meant before. But you're right about identity, right? Is that we are going to be great institutions that are also theoretically great on the field. And we are flagship major population center universities. I do think that's interesting. The Big 12 one, I think the same point. The best thing you gained here is that you have, again, your identity of sorts. We've got fan bases that care. We've got land grant schools. We've got large student bodies.
We're not the Big 2, but we're the best of everything else. Like we are the conference that has history and rivalries and entertaining in all sports, and outside of the conferences that are the big boys, the Big 10 and the SEC, who have really, I think, separated quite clearly into a tier of their own. The Big 12 is the best of what's left, and it's the most together of the leagues. It is, I think it is the most together of everyone else because everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. Like I said earlier, everybody kind of understanding where they stand in the college sports landscape, and they know and understand that they are better together.
And that's valuable.
Yes.
That is extremely valuable.
Because you don't have that in the other Power 4 league.
No, you don't have any. You don't have anything even close like that. And then, I mean, the ACC, a stay of execution. Is that what they gained out of all of this? They have it's a weaker conference overall. The travel is worse. Everybody is still mad at everybody else. I mean, they're the ones that come out of this in the weakest position, I think, by far. I'm still not happy about all of this. I wish it was still the way it was. I'm very much kind of a go back to the way things were. We've gone too far kind of guy, but the Big 12 is going to be fine. It's going to be fun. It's going to be competitive, and that's probably pretty much all we could ask for at this point. Next up, we'll recap the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly. Then Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated will join us to talk all things NFL here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. right, good, bad, and ugly time. Let's recap the weekend here on 580 Sports Talk. The good for me, pretty easily, the Shrine Bowl this weekend down at Welch Stadium in Emporia. That was a lot of fun. Fun game to broadcast. I think I can speak for all of us, plus our pal Greg Akagi when I say that. That was awesome. The quarterbacks were unbelievable. Dylan Dunn from Blue Valley Southwest, holy cow, broke every record in Shrine Bowl history. Future Washburn Ichabod Brody Hayes was the West's most outstanding player. Just great to see the level of talent. We talked so much pregame, Dan, about how much talent was on those two rosters, and then they came out and had one of the highest scoring Shrine Bowls of all time. It was great.
Yeah, the level of play was higher than any of the Shrine Bowls previous 5 that I had had a chance to cover. Just really outstanding individual talents on both sides of the ball for both the East and the West. And the play, accordingly, was also a high level. You had some real highlight reel plays throughout, some offense, which is what has been missing, frankly, from the game, close to over a decade and a half now.
Yeah,
where we just haven't seen teams with the ability to go score points. And while that can make for like drama, it does not often make for a great game. And we got a great game on Saturday and raised a lot of money for Shriners Children's, which is the most important part of all of it. So, wonderful cause, wonderful night in Emporia. Top-notch work again by the Kansas Shrine Bowl staff. And, it was a great thing to be a part of.
I will add, it was great to do sidelines. It was great to talk to kids and do interviews. Where I felt like, I don't know, I've done interviews with a lot of high schoolers in my time.
Sure.
In sports broadcasting. And I feel like these were the most polished kids I've talked to, especially high energy coming right off the field. Like, it was great doing that. Great talking to the coaching, to the head coach. It was all around fun experience. And then yesterday, my girlfriend's now moved in here to Topeka. So
woo!
The
countdown has finished. Yes. She's arrived.
I now have a microwave and a dining table in my apartment.
That's brazy. You didn't have a microwave for 6 months.
Even I had a microwave.
But I survived, though. Like, I did.
Got by.
Anything that
you didn't eat any leftovers.
There was only 3, and if I had leftovers, they were my lunch at work.
There you go. Yeah, we have 2 microwaves at work. In fact,
I worked it out.
I bet somebody would let you borrow one. Take one home for the weekend, like the class pet hamster. Take it home for the weekend.
It's okay, because I realized I really didn't need one. I mean, I had used an air fryer. I had an air fryer.
Sure,
there you go.
So if I needed to reheat stuff, I reheated in the air fryer.
That's the move.
That's usually a better go anyway.
Yeah.
My bad for the weekend. It was this morning. We got water in the basement.
Oh, geez.
That rain was nuts, and it came in a spot where we hadn't gotten it before, so that wasn't great.
That's too bad. Yeah, it rained very, very hard. We had some puddles in the backyard. I haven't seen that since I've lived at my current residence going on 2+ years now. So yeah, that was wild rain. I was driving with my wife this morning to an appointment for our son, and there was standing water on 10th Street, a couple of places. So
wow.
Yeah, it was that rain was something else. My bad. Another growth spurt for Ash. Another growth spurt for the little man, and that means he's eating us out of house and home, and he's eating like every hour. And if he does not get food, he cries. And hearing your baby cry is like the worst thing in the entire universe.
Welcome to 18 more years of that.
Well, ultimately you grow out of the crying.
Yes.
You don't know that.
I was talking about the eating out of house and home phase.
Well, we'll see how big Asher gets, but no, like there are a lot of growth spurts that happen very early in the process. We're told that you can expect growth spurts. It is not uncommon for infant growth spurts at 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and 8 weeks. Right now, we're just shy of 4 weeks. So this is growth spurt number 3, and this might be, we were warned by the folks at the clinic this morning, the most severe one yet. So we're battening down the hatches for that. But,
oh my gosh.
No, everything else with Ash is wonderful. He's healthy. He's gaining weight. He's a happy baby, except when he doesn't get fed. And but the growth spurts are tough, because what it also means is more night feedings, which means less sleep.
Real quick, bad for you.
The bad for me, I do have an ugly, but my bad is we went to put stuff in the storage unit that we got, because 1-bedroom apartment here. That will change hopefully next year. The original storage unit they gave us apparently was still occupied. So they had to give us another storage unit on the other side of the storage unit place. So that was the bad.
What was your ugly?
My ugly, you were there. I dropped. Thank you for helping us move my girlfriend's dresser. I dropped the drawer on my big toe, and now it's nice and bruised.
That did happen.
Ouch.
I was indeed there for that. My ugly, man, I don't know if I really had an ugly this weekend. I'm kind of sick of the rain. My lawnmower is still not fixed after it broke a couple weeks ago.
Oh, dear.
And the lawn is, it's bad. It's in really rough shape. That's probably the closest I have to ugly.
My ugly would be that the rain is going to make me have to recalibrate our pool, which is a bummer because I finally got back in the pool. Shout out to our pool guys.
Oh, yeah, you got
Yeah.
it?
Yes, the pool guys texted the show on Friday and insisted that I get in the pool. So I can confirm for our friends at Debaters. I did. I got in the pool yesterday. It was wonderful. And now I got to backwash and rinse and add chemicals all over again because of freaking rain buckets.
Love to hear that. That is it for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Next up, Matt Verderame is going to join us to talk all things National Football League here on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. We will chat briefly, or in a brief moment, with Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated for our weekly talk about all things going on in the National Football League. Matt, of course, national writer for SI. We'll see if we can get a hold of Matt here in just a few minutes. Real quick, this is from Paul in the YouTube comments. His ugly from the weekend, it was the home run, fair, foul, did it hit anything moment from the Royals game on Saturday.
Yeah, that was weird. I guess they said it hit like there's a black hole that comes out into foul territory from the foul pole.
I think that was just added, right, to
Like,
hold up the netting.
I think
that
it
they put along.
holds the netting, and I guess the ruling is that that's part of the foul pole, but I didn't know that foul poles could grow appendages now. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
So they need to paint it yellow, right?
No, they need to not consider it part of the foul pole.
Well, by their standards, it needed to have been painted yellow.
Well, no, it should be different. It should be distinct from, I guess by their standard, but it should be distinct enough from the yellow foul pole that if the ball hits that, they can say clearly, oh yeah, that's obviously a foul ball. That swung that game. Like,
oh yeah,
Royals led the game at the time. Reagan's was 1 out away from getting out of the fourth, and then he didn't make it out of the fifth. That was a major tipping point.
We'll talk some more Royals baseball later on, but right now it is time to welcome in our good pal Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated for our weekly talk about all things NFL. Matt joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. You can find his work at si.com. He is also the host of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon, and he is the host of That Football Show at the KC Sports Network. What's going on, Matt?
Not much. I'm on vacation in a remote part of New York, and so hopefully you can hear me. And if you can, I'm not going to move 1 inch from the spot that I'm sitting in right now.
We thankfully can hear you crystal clear. And to be frank, I would feel it'd be rude to ask you to move on your own vacation, Matt. So you're safe where you are.
I'm glad. All of a sudden, I looked down. I saw I had a phone notification. And I was like, well, that's not good. It didn't even ring. So we might have a problem with service, but glad it's working now.
Hey, we will do the best that we can. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your trip to join us today, Matt. First question I've got for you. Were you expecting teammate on teammate podcast beef to be a headline at this time of the offseason?
You know what? No, but at the same point, that's why every team is terrified of these 4 to 6 weeks because you just never know. Like, people get bored. People have nothing to do. They're waiting for the season. They're getting a little stir crazy, and things like that can happen.
The thing I'm talking about, for those who don't know, Micah Parsons, podcast host, obviously the star defensive all-around player, really, for the Cowboys. His own teammate, safety Malik Hooker, was pretty much saying, hey, Micah, maybe you should put down the podcast mic and open the playbook a little bit. And then they were beefing back and forth, podcast wars, really petty media guy stuff. That Cowboys team is a disaster waiting to happen. I know, Matt, we've talked about that this offseason. Like, we don't really know what they're doing, but that just feels like it is a time bomb waiting to explode.
It does. Like, sometimes you look at a situation, and especially in our line of work, you really overanalyze it if you get too in the weeds, and you maybe go, well, maybe everybody's going to sit here, and maybe the Zag is the right move, and maybe we're not looking at this from the right angle. No, that's a time bomb. You look at this, McCarthy's a lame duck. Prescott's a lame duck. They brought back Ezekiel Elliott, who's like 75 years old now, to be the lead back. They have not extended CeeDee Lamb, which that is just bonkers. There's no reason not to have extended CeeDee Lamb. At this point, they haven't done it. Micah Parsons, sitting there on his rookie deal, and now he's getting yapped at by a guy who is fine. He's a good player, but has no business telling Micah Parsons what to do about anything. All this being led by a guy who is an owner who loves a little bit of himself, and he is more than happy to get in front of any microphone he can find and talk and talk and talk and talk. And that's all good and well when you're 5-0 or you're 6-1. Everybody's happy. It's not so good if you start out the season 1-2 and you have all these looming issues. So yes, I agree. They are. This is one of the teams I'm looking at that if things go bad early, they could really go bad.
We're talking to Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, as well as the Matt Verderame Show and the KC Sports Network's That Football Show here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt joins us every Monday at this time to talk all things NFL on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Matt, right now, what do you think are the odds that a Rashee Rice suspension happens this season versus maybe waiting all the way until next season?
If you said to me, look, you got to bet a significant amount of money that matters to you, I would say I still think it's more likely he's suspended for this season. Not for the whole season, to be clear, but for part of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this though. If they get into the middle portion, mid to latter, let's say November, the schedule, I don't see the NFL suspending him and going, hey, by the way, like he was there for the first 8 weeks and now he's going to be gone for the last 8, or he's going to be gone for the last 4 in the playoffs. Like, I don't think the NFL is not going to want that distraction. They're not going to want that looming over their season. They're not. It's a business decision at that point. They're not going to want to do that. So at that juncture, I think they would just say, hey, whatever the suspension is going to be, it's going to be in 2025. The thing that makes this really hard to figure is this is not hey, the gun wasn't registered correctly type of a charge, or, a DWI type thing, which are serious things, but not 8 felony charges serious. Like it's a lot to adjudicate. And so the NFL might be looking at this going, look, we're not even going to touch this until everything is figured out from a legal standpoint. If they take that road, it's very possible he's not suspended till next year. If they take the road of, look, we did our own investigation, we gathered enough, we feel confident, then I think he probably does get suspended to start this year for whatever the length of it may be, anywhere between 4 and 8 games.
Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, SI.com, national NFL writer, also of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon and part of the Kansas City Sports Network as well. You can find Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderame. You can hear him this time every Monday here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, all offseason long, the San Francisco 49ers have been resolute in saying that they plan to have Brandon Ayuk in their uniform for a long time to come. Brandon Ayuk's public comments continue to be that of somebody who does not necessarily believe that that is going to be the case. Do you think that there is any kind of resolution between the 49ers and Ayuk before training camp, before week 1, or is this unease going to extend into the start of the season?
I think that the best bet, and these situations are fluid and things can change, and all of a sudden, somebody could throw a proposal out there that the other guy goes, oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that was on the table. We could do that. I think the best bet is he plays the season out in San Francisco. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. Like they're not looking to get rid of him unless they get value that they just feel like, okay, we have to do this. If somebody offers them a first-round pick, I think they'd really have a hard time turning that down. But I don't know that anyone's going to offer him because you're not just trading for a first-round pick. Like there's been a lot of smoke around Pittsburgh, right? Like, Pittsburgh might go get him. Okay, you've got to then give up a first-round pick, which, by the way, Pittsburgh is one of these teams that very, very rarely gives up major draft capital. They did it with Minka Fitzpatrick. They typically don't do it. But hey, you got to give up your first, and then you got to go pay the guy $30 million a year. Because let's be real, if you trade a pick like that for him, he's got all the leverage in the world contractually. I mean, you're going to have to pay him. You're not going to go trade a first-round pick and then hardball with the guy, right? So I think the most likely scenario is the Niners do not get that offer. They play out the season. They try to win the Super Bowl, knowing full well that this coming off season and the one after that, almost everybody who matters on this team is free agent. And then I think what will happen is they could tag Ayuk, they could trade Deebo Samuel, and then use that money that they recoup to sign Ayuk long term. I think that makes the most sense. Ayuk is younger. You could argue he's better. And that way you get one more year of both of them before you have to move on from at least one of them. And I would imagine it'd be one of them. And I think it would be Deebo because that makes more sense.
You could argue Brandon Ayuk is better than Deebo Samuel, but would you, Matt Verderame, argue that Brandon Ayuk is better than Deebo Samuel?
Yes, I would. Because when you look at Deebo Samuel's career, listen, I think he's a terrific player. Okay, he's entering year 6. In 5 years, he's had 1 year of 900 receiving yards. 1. I mean, terrific player, but he's never played a full season. He's come close a few times. Never played a full season. He had 1 year in 2021. He was absolutely spectacular. He had 770 yards from scrimmage. He was a first-team All-Pro, 1,400 receiving yards. Since then, he has 632 and 892 receiving yards. And he's never been the runner that he was in 2021 where they were using him as a running back as well. Like since then, he's certainly been productive and as a receiver, extremely productive on the ground, but we're talking a couple of 100 yards. We're not talking about 500, 600, 700 yards. If I'm the Niners, I'm looking at him going, okay, he's 28 years old, so after this year, he's 29. Brandon Ayuk, at this juncture of his career, is younger. He's only 26 years old. And he's already had 2 seasons of over 1,000 yards, and all of his numbers just keep ticking up and up and up and up. So yeah, I would pay IU well before I would keep Debo Samuel.
There seems to be a bit of an impasse on the other coast between the Miami Dolphins and their quarterback Tua Tagovailoa regarding just how much money Tagovailoa should be in line for on his next contract. I'm of the mind Tua's too good not to pay. But a little closer to the back of that line than the front of that line, probably too close to that line for Miami's liking at this point. What do you suspect the resolution is there? Do you think that's something that gets done before week 1?
I think that could linger on. I really do. I think there's a real world here where the Dolphins play this contract out and they go into the tag scenarios, right? Where you go, okay, you got 2 tags, you want to use them, and certainly you could use 1. So I wrote about this for Sports Illustrated back on June 13th. The article went up, and I talked to 6 different people in the league. I talked to general managers. I talked to other, high-ranking personnel men in the league. And I also talked to a couple of defensive coordinators who faced him. And you talk to those defensive coordinators, and they are not overly impressed with Tua. I mean, they were pretty blunt. One of the quotes I had was, the best way to look at it is you prepare for the speed at the skill position and Mike McDaniel and then Tua. He doesn't like to get hit or read coverage. When is he at his best? RPOs in the quick game. Next question to ask yourself is how many quarterbacks did you take before him? Like, that's a defensive coordinator, and I'll even say a veteran defensive coordinator who has faced him. And that was not an isolated opinion. Multiple defensive coordinators who I spoke to told me, yeah, that's a pretty accurate assessment. So if you're Miami, you combine that with, yes, he has been productive statistically, but you do have injury concerns. One former GM who I spoke with pointed that out and said, look, just because he was healthy last year doesn't mean those concerns go away. And then there's also the portion of this where, and this isn't just a Tua thing, this is a Dolphins thing, they can't be good teams. So are you going to pay him $55 to $60 million a year so you can win 10 games and get blown out in the playoffs? I think that's the impasse here. And if you're Miami, you might want a little bit of a longer look. You might want to see if he can be healthy 2 years in a row. I think it would be prudent for the Dolphins to kind of kick the can down the road a little bit, even if it means, hey, if he turns out to be awesome this year, you pay him a touch more. Okay, but at least you have a little more peace of mind, a little more certainty.
We're joined by Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated here on 580 Sports, talking the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, is Commanders rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels being overhyped? I've seen a lot of NFL insiders talking about this, that he's getting a lot of buzz around the league. Is he being overhyped?
I think the talent itself in Jaden Daniels is not being overhyped. I think the idea that he's going to go in there and just fix that thing. Look, Josh Harris is a real owner. Okay, he owns the Sixers, he owns the Devils in other sports, and those teams have had success under his stewardship. But he just got to Washington. He's been there for a year. They just revamped the GM. They just revamped the coach. Like they brought in a lot of free agents, and not in a dumb way. Like, I thought actually did a good job of finding guys with veteran guys who can help them, like Bobby Wagner, Dorrance Armstrong, stuff like that. That being said, who's on that offense? Yeah, sure. Fine, his veteran presence. That's all fine and well. But I mean, it's Austin Eckler, incredibly ambitious.
A couple more questions for Matt Verderame, the host of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon, that football show at the KC Sports Network, and writer for SI.com's NFL coverage, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, you talked on the most recent episode of the Matt Verderame Show with a friend of our program as well, Seth Kaiser, about all sorts of stuff for this Chiefs team, including, though, the value of linebacker Nick Bolton, as well as the future for the offensive line. So I want to combine all of that together and say, if you got to extend one player from the 2021 class, are you extending Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, or Trey Smith?
Creed Humphrey. I wouldn't even think. Creed Humphrey. Because people don't realize how integral the center is in terms of what they are expected to do, in terms of sliding the line, getting protections right. helping the quarterback have a second set of eyes up there. And you're talking about arguably the best center in football. Look, the snap stuff is so far overblown. Yeah, he had a hard time snapping the ball in the Super Bowl. He did. He didn't have a good game snapping the ball. The guy does not have a snapping the ball problem. It wasn't like it was an all-year thing here. And he is an all-pro player, and he's in his early 20s at center. And center is a much cheaper position to pay than guard or linebacker. Like, the guard market explodes. Okay, Robert Hunt, who I would argue is maybe as good as Trey Smith, got 5 and 100. Now, I think that's also an outlier contract. I do not think all of a sudden the guard's getting a $100 million contract. But, you look at a guy like Jonah Jackson, he got paid. Damian Lewis, he got, I think a reasonable contract for Trey Smith is probably somewhere like 4 years and $60 million. Maybe it's 3 and 50. Whereas Humphrey, you could reset the market at center, and you're looking at 4 and 56.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather pay Humphrey that amount of money. Bolton is just a fascinating one because Bolton could be anywhere with a huge range, but I would pay Humphrey.
I'm with you on that. I think you pay the guy who is without question the best at what he does in the NFL. And look, if you're worried about the snaps, I get it. I was too in the playoffs, but go look at the blocking numbers. Go look at, pass block win rate. Go look at the PFF grades. He grades out like crazy. But that being said, do you think when push comes to shove at some point soon, Bolton will get an extension with the Chiefs?
I do. I do because Spagnuolo loves Nick Bolton. And Nick Bolton's productive. He's a good player. See, the conversation around Nick Bolton is bizarre. And Seth and I talked about this in my podcast. Like, people seem to have this thing about you either got to love Nick Bolton and defend him like a child, like your own personal child, or you have to absolutely be out on him and you wouldn't pay him the vet minimum. And I think that's a very weird way to have a conversation about a player. Like, would I pay him like Fred Warner? No, hell no. No, not even close. But would I pay him like he's a good football player? Yeah. Now, here's the thing with linebackers that is very difficult. The difference between the number 1 highest paid inside linebacker, Roquan Smith, and the number 10 overall inside linebacker, Kyle Van Noy, the difference in overall value is $91 million. It's the difference between 100 and 9. So, there's no middle ground. And if I'm the Chiefs, I'm trying to find that middle ground. I'm saying, hey, Nick, we'll pay you. You're a good football player. We'll pay you 4 years. We'll guarantee 2 of them, maybe even have some guaranteed money in the third. And we'll pay you $13 million a year. We'll give you 4 and, even 4 and 55, something like that. But he might want, 16, 17 million a year. And if I were the Chiefs, I would not pay that. Will they? I think Spagnuolo is going to lobby for it. Maybe he gets his way.
Matt Verderame covers the whole National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. He's also the host of the Matt Verderame Show podcast on Patreon and the That Football Show podcast over at the KC Sports Network. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline at this time every Monday afternoon. Matt, thank you again for taking some time for us today, and enjoy the rest of vacation.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
That's Matt Verderame from SI.com joining us here on 580 Sports Talk today. How very kind of him to take a break from vacation to talk to us today.
Extremely kind.
That was very nice.
Very good.
I do not deserve that kind of kindness, so thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. In the 4 o'clock hour of the program today, we'll have breaking news from Goodland. Linkon Cure going to announce his college decision. We have our June championship in What Is Wrong With You, and we'll talk some more Chiefs football. All coming up on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. now, 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk coming your way. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Across the table from me is Dan Lucero. To my left, it's Spencer Dupuis. Across on the other side of the glass, it is Trenton Kraxner. We are here with you until 6 o'clock today. No Royals baseball. I was so ready for baseball today. After that, 2 series wins in a row, took 2 from the Marlins, 3 from the Guardians. Let's go. Let's just get right back at it.
Give them a night off. They deserve it.
Yeah, like they have had a night
Think about
off
me,
in
guys.
a week and a half.
Me.
It's nice to be able to sit on that series win over Cleveland, have an extra day to enjoy it, to bask in it, to bask in that feeling of superiority, to know that, hey, Cleveland, we're coming. We coming.
We're here.
Borrow from a less successful team, to use that catchphrase. We coming.
Are you thinking of Michigan State?
I think Colorado.
Oh, I was thinking of Tuck coming. And then that took on a whole different meaning after a while.
I mean, it wasn't wrong, but also
he was very wrong, actually. Mel Tucker at Michigan State.
Deeply wrong.
We are going to find out exactly where Linkon Cure is headed for his college football career coming up here in what should just be a matter of moments. The ceremony was supposed to start at 4 o'clock. There's always all sorts of stuff that goes on at these. Linkon Cure, obviously a big freaking deal. So we'll get the update there, what that's going to mean for his future school. Anyone want to put in a guess as to where the 5-star tight end might be heading?
I know somebody did in the headlines page on the rundown.
Yeah, tip my hand to you guys a little bit. Dan?
I think he's going to choose Kansas State University.
Spencer, would you like to venture a guess?
I think he's going to choose Kansas State University.
Nice.
The State University of Kansas.
Trenton, would you like to venture a guess today?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, all
Okay.
good now.
Great.
I don't know what the hell happened earlier.
Delusionally, I'm going to say the University of Kansas, but he's for sure going to K-State. But I'm delusionally say KU.
Listen, that pivot would be an all-timer.
Look, maybe he really, really, really wants to play with his brother again.
Just loves what Jeff Grimes had to sell him on when he took his official. I would put it at, we had somebody ask us the other day, what are the odds he picks K-State over KU? Dan said to this mutual friend, 99%. I said, it's 100.
I said 99.9.
99.9. Yeah, I said 100. I am convinced. I'm hopeful, Trenton. I am very hopeful he might pick a different school, but no, it's going to be awesome for K-State. So we'll give you that breaking news as soon as it comes down the pipe.
Did you know 24/7 Sports official page is live for it on YouTube?
Yeah, no, this is a BFD.
Yeah.
Big deal.
5-star commitments tend to be a pretty big deal, even if you have to go out to
the middle of nowhere in Kansas.
Now, let's be fair.
No, I mean,
To the
like
good
for
people
them.
of Goodland,
No,
Kansas.
good, like for like
What the top? Be fair to the top side of Kansas.
I meant in the way of wherever 24/7 Sports.
I wonder
has their
if
headquarters.
there are any national writers there, any national recruiting experts there, if they stopped by the giant Van Gogh painting in East Goodland.
So if they flew in, would they fly into Denver and drive?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I
Yes.
was
It's
thinking.
only about 3 hours a drive from Denver to Goodland.
No, what they would do.
Really, only about 2.5 from the airport.
Yeah, I think you fly to, well, I guess Denver. I was going to say you could fly to Hayes.
You could.
Would take a couple extra puddle jumps, but you
Yeah.
could fly to Hayes.
You could fly to Denver, catch that connecting flight to Hayes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
honestly, by the time you've flown Denver to Hayes and then driven from Hayes to Goodland,
You probably could have just driven to Goodland.
just drive to Goodland.
I've never stopped in Goodland. I just drove past once. I stopped in Canarado.
What?
Britt
to do what?
Britt told me I should. I had lived in Lawrence for years because I had gone to KU, but I had never explored anything west of Manhattan before, spring of 2018. I've said it many times before. I took that road trip out to Denver that spring, and I was talking to Britt about the trip because he's from out that way, lived in Goodland, and went to school in Hayes. And he said, "Yeah, you got to check out Canarado just to say you've been there." And I went there, and there's not a whole lot.
No, there's nothing. Like a mile away, there's the what do you call it? The colorful Colorado sign.
Yeah,
People are always pulling over and taking pictures of the colorful Colorado sign. Maybe not so much at the Kansas state line, but like the Wyoming state line, Utah,
I saw plenty at the Kansas state line,
New Mexico.
Yeah.
A lot of people are stopping at all times to take pictures at that sign.
I almost stopped on my way here, but it was January.
You also,
and it was frigid.
yeah,
You
that was also coming from the other direction.
Yes. But I'm talking about like I almost stopped after
To like see stuff.
in KCK.
You probably didn't miss a whole lot
Okay.
in KCK.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's-
It's also freezing outside.
Well, yeah, you just power through at that point.
So yeah,
You
I was
don't
like,
want to
yeah,
freeze your
we're
buns
just
off
gonna
there.
Go.
Also, this hour, we are going to have our June championship and What Is Wrong With You. And we've got some more NFL to get to from around the league today, including a wild, something wild, including Patrick Mahomes' likeness going on at his alma mater, Texas Tech. So Linkon Cure, the 5-star tight end from Goodland High School out in Goodland, he is going to announce his commitment to either K-State, KU, Oregon, or Texas A&M coming up here in the near future. Oregon has already landed a stud tight end from the state of Kansas, Desan Brame from Derby, who I got to see this past year, this past football season, playing against Washburn Rural. And I remember seeing who he was being recruited by at the time and saying, dang, that is a very impressive list of Power 4, Power 5 offers. And he didn't do a whole lot in the first half of that game against Washburn Rural in the sub-state round of the 6A playoffs. And I thought, dang, Rural shutting him down. Then he had a 45 or 49-yard catch in the second half and had a couple of other big plays during Derby's comeback. And I thought, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand why Oregon, among others, is recruiting him at this point.
Really
so
wants this guy. Yeah.
he committed there the other day. Linkon Cure, I assume, is going to K-State.
Well, he wasn't going where Desan Brame was going. Like,
No.
that much was really obvious. So
Yeah.
there's an Oregon hat on the table in front of Linkon Cure.
Mhm.
He can go ahead and donate that to the Goodwill. Like, that's not that he's not putting that hat on.
No, I would think not. This year's class, and we talked about this with Fitz recently, but this next year's incoming senior class, the top end talent in the state of Kansas is it's crazy, if we're being honest. Andrew Babalola, he's a 5-star kid. He's got a bunch of out-of-state offers. He at one point was considered, like, KU was going really hard at Babalola, who's now the number 14 prospect in the country. And then Andy Kotelnicki left and Scott Fuchs left. And, well, that was that. Linkon Cure probably going to K-State. He's also a 5-star. Dawson Merritt, who is, oh my God, Dave Merritt's kid.
Yes.
Goes to Blue Valley out in the Kansas City, Kansas area. He's committed to Alabama. Brame to Oregon. Jaden Woods, the edge rusher from Mill Valley. He's committed to Penn State. Juju Marks is going to KU. Brock Heath, Martell Jackson from Blue Valley Northwest and Derby, respectively. They're committed to K-State. Bryson Hayes from Mays. We've seen him play before, Dan. That kid's got speed for days.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to Nebraska. Charlie Wolben from DeSoto to Iowa State. I mean, there's so many kids who are playing high major football. There have been years recently, and you play D1 football anywhere, it's a big, big deal. But we've seen, the top 10 kids in the state going to MAC schools or going to FCS schools, which is awesome. It's a great accomplishment. But this is a lot of Power 4 major conference football in the state this year. And Linkon Cure is one of the best of the best.
Yeah. Chances are pretty good you're not far from a prospect who's going to go play high major college football and may even go beyond that someday. So it's a great reason to get out on a Friday night and go see some high school football this fall.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. And this past season, we talked about it a bunch during the football year, Dan, and we talked about it a lot with Rick Peterson over the course of the season, all the talent. Hell, we talked about it with the Shrine Bowl this past weekend. Just an outrageous amount of senior talent in the state this past year. I don't know. I haven't gotten into my my high school football deep dives yet, but I know, like, around here, we're going to end up with a lot of different looking teams. But, like, consider who the powers were in our city and local teams in the last couple of years. Like, Washburn Rural was incredible this past year. It was such a great year for that group. They graduated a lot of players, a whole lot. So I'm fascinated to see what high school football is going to look like in our area coming up this year. Just like I'm excited to see what it's going to look like for both KU and K-State. But as we talk about Linkon Cure, and the assumption is that he will end up committing today to the Kansas State Wildcats and Coach Chris Kleiman, I'm excited to see what that offense looks like. I think I am maybe more so than you guys, or at least you, Dan, because I know you're really high on the wide receivers, and I like them. I'm just curious how different it all looks with Connor Riley and Matt Wells versus Colin Klein calling the shots. I want to see it in action. And I think Matt Wells is going to kill it in this job. I really do. I think that was a home run hire. And I'm sure that also helped Linkon Cure. But yeah, former head coach. Go look at some of those offenses he was running in the Mountain West. Go see how you're going to be used. I'm sure that was helpful as if they needed any help.
And I don't think it's going to be like a radical difference necessarily from what they've run with Colin Klein the previous 2 years. And you can look at the production that Ben Sinnott had in that offense and where Ben Sinnott was drafted and think, that was a pretty unheralded prospect.
Mm-hmm. Completely
Sinnott.
unheralded.
What can I do? What can a player of my caliber do? And it's a big deal for K-State as a whole because they've never gotten a commitment from a player like this.
No. Would he be the highest rated recruit in K-State history?
I believe he would. Right now, number one is a gentleman, according to 24/7 Sports. They put out a piece, the top 10 highest rated pledges according to 24/7 Sports. And number one is a gentleman named Chris Bogus, who was the best offensive lineman from Texas coming out of high school in 2000. He redshirted as a freshman, took a year off, played 6 total games over the next 2 seasons, and was arrested the summer of 2005 for stealing signed baseballs from Bill Snyder's house.
What?
Yes.
Not great.
Yeah.
I did not know that story. That's not especially good.
I did not know that story either. He never started a game. He left the team ahead of the 2005 season, but in the summer of 2005, he was arrested for stealing 6 signed baseballs valued at over $10,000. They were all signed by legendary Yankees. They were stolen from Bill Snyder's house during a small gathering of friends hosted by the head coach's daughter.
Oh my God. That is terrible. I'm looking at the list right now. I don't know who most of these guys are.
Yeah, Ayo Saba is number 2 on the list. Matt Boss, number 3. Jerome Janae, number 4. Nick Patton, number 5, who never really even made it to campus. Josh Freeman, number 6, the best success story we've arrived at so far. Avery Johnson, 7th. Lamarck Brown, 8th. Jake Rubley, 9th. And Gus Hawkins, part of this year's class from Mill Valley via Scott City, 10th. So it's a star-crossed list. And it should go to show, it should go to be proof that there's nothing guaranteed. There are no guarantees. Just your star rating does not promise you will catch X amount of passes, score X amount of touchdowns, any of that. But it still is a big deal because it raises your program's ceiling to get players who are that kind of talented.
And again, according to the 24/7 composite and just their rankings overall, K-State's never had a 5-star commit.
Yeah.
Which, big deal to have that come out of good.
And we should probably note that recruiting is an inexact science by nature, but is also much more of an exact science than it was in the Chris Bogus era, right? Like
I would say so.
We got more film, we got more eyes. There are more people doing this for a living.
I remember a story that was shared at KU Football Media Day a few years ago by a former KU assistant coach.
So I have to interrupt. I'm sorry. They're showing. I'm watching this stream at 24/7 Sports, and they're showing Linkon Cure video. He's doing my Colby Eagles so dirty. Oh my God, that was rude. Why did they have to choose that film? Anyway, continue, please.
Were you on the call for this?
I was not on the call for that game.
No, I guess it would have been
a couple years ago. Was my last time at Denon Field.
Would Cure would have been a freshman still, or did you miss his career?
No, he would have been a freshman.
Okay,
he would have been a freshman, and I saw him play basketball. And there was already he already had like the size of a football player that you would want. His brother had committed to Fort Hays and was a pretty good athlete, and his sister was part of those back-to-back state title teams at Goodland. So like athletic genes are in the family, but there was not like they've got this freshman. He's unbelievable. Just like that kid got a chance to be something.
Someone on the YouTube live chat for this just said Travis Kelce Jr.
I don't know if I'd go that. That's pretty lofty, but yeah, I mean, he's got incredible skill. Do we know?
A Chiefs fan account.
Oh, I'm sure. Do we know if Goodland's quarterback has college plans? Because I'm sure Linkon Cure makes him look pretty dang good.
That's a good question. I don't know who was playing quarterback for Goodland last year. If it was because I think they had one kid that they really liked as a prospect, but then he quit to focus on baseball, or did he quit basketball to focus on baseball? He might have been the quarterback last year. Kid named Colin. Shout out to Goodland.
I couldn't tell you. Well,
shout out to Northwest Kansas.
Yes. Well, they're interviewing Linkon Cure right now, so we'll know in the next couple of minutes what he'll be able to do. Do you think? And it's hard to know. They got a lot of folks there in Goodland.
The Max Jones Fieldhouse is half packed for this.
What a cool arena. That's such a cool place to play, especially for high school.
The Max Jones is awesome.
I did want to ask, and I don't know, maybe we shouldn't guess because I haven't, I don't have all of Lincoln's measurables or anything. Does he strike you as a guy, and he's got another high school season left, does he strike you as a guy who could play right away?
Physically, you might have to get a little straight, 6'6", 220, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'd like to put a little more weight
bulk
on to play tight end, but I think the receiving skill and some of the open field stuff could give him a chance to some time. Like, the redshirt rules being what they are, like, I bet he plays some. Even if they don't take the redshirt off completely, he only plays like 4 games here and there. He plays maybe in the non-conference games, and then they go from there. But I could definitely see him getting on the field because it's not just like the size is what makes him impressive. It's also some of the things he can do, catching the ball, some of the things he can do in the open field. Now, I think he'll have a chance. I don't expect that the tight end room at Kansas State will be so overwhelming going into next year that he wouldn't have a chance to be one of like the top. They usually rotate 3 guys. So
yeah.
It wouldn't shock me if he was one of them.
No, it'd be fun. I mean, it'll be a couple of years into Avery Johnson's career at that point before he can link up with Linkon Cure, but that'd be fun. It would be fun to get him on the field that quickly. And if he's as talented as we are led to believe he is, that's going to help. I'm looking at this video right now. He's tapping the microphone. I think he's about to make his announcement.
I think he is too.
He's wearing about 400 rubber bracelets on his wrist. Like, we're talking 2004 Livestrong appearance here, or 2006, whenever that would have been. I saw in Oregon one. I could not tell what the other ones looked like. I'm going to guess he was wearing one for every team.
Probably.
He's like,
well, yeah.
You got to say, hey, I'm
blessed. First of all, I would like to thank God. Without him, none of these things would be possible. I would also like to thank these following coaches. I'd like to thank my family for making me who I am today. With that being said, and then I'm going to grab a hat.
With that being said, when did that become a thing?
When the iPhone Note doing after commitment became a thing. It just became what everybody said was with that being said.
It's one of the funniest things. I always look for it as soon as I see a Notes app post on Twitter or Instagram or wherever. And I see, someone hit the Notes app. Somewhere in here it's going to say, with that being said.
We don't always get the shortened that said, but every now and again we do get that.
Yeah.
That's always really exciting.
My favorite part was when kids committed to Marshall, they would say the University of Marshall.
Oh, yeah.
That happens all the time. Kids commit to Kansas University very often.
And then you hear, why it's called KU.
It was a naming construct that all the Big 8 schools did. It's very, very old.
CU, MU, OU, come on.
NU in Nebraska. Yes, it was everybody. Learn your history. Do your Googles.
They're doing an incredible job of stretching this out. All of the local,
you mean Linkon Cure?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think 24/7 Sports held, from what I've seen on Twitter, according to a K-State writer.
Well, yeah, this is a live show that
they were
24/7
holding
Sports
him.
runs.
Yeah, they were holding him till whatever.
Who is the number 1 ranked tight end in the country? If Cure is number 2.
I don't know. It's not Frame.
No. Now he's still, I think, right on the fringes of a top 100 player, though.
Yeah, really good player, really good gift for Oregon.
Yeah, so we'll keep it here with you before the commercial break. We will at least let you know, assuming this does not go obscenely long.
He is at this point. I think he's going to thank every Goodland student athlete in history, or at least going back to football. That is what it seems like he is doing.
Hillary Swank moment.
So, Trenton, I don't know if that got on the air, but we've been filled in. There's a tight end is committed to Georgia.
Okay. Okay, well, that makes sense. Hey, you get the number 2 player, and the other number 1's going to Georgia. You're doing something right.
Yeah, you did pretty well.
Speaking of, just while we have a moment to get to some college football here, is Georgia number 1?
They would be my number 1.
Yeah. Have you come around on Carson Beck? I know you were not always feeling the Carson Beck vibe.
I don't think he's like a Heisman Trophy candidate unless he just gets like the boilerplate quarterback of the best team, like the not Craig Trent, Ken Dorsey. He wasn't Heisman either. The Gino Toretta. I gotta go back that far. Like the Gino Toretta Memorial Heisman. Like that's not entirely fair. I think he's probably better than Gino Toretta. I don't know what kind of NFL prospect he is, but
I've seen a lot of people say they think he's going to go number 1 because it's a bad quarterback class next year.
It is. It's like Shador and a bunch of question marks.
Yeah, I think Beck is the next. Him and Shador are probably your top 2. I don't even know who else is. I came around
on him. He can do more than like the Jake Fromm throw the quick out and throw a bomb, and that's it. Like he got a little more in his bag. So I do. I think Carson Beck is good. I will say that.
All right, fair enough. All right, we are going to get to a commercial break here because this is quite a long statement that Linkon Cure is making. We have our June championship. I know it's July. We will have our June championship and What Is Wrong With You coming up next. We will also get to eventually the big news from Linkon Cure where he commits to. We'll talk some NFL. It's all coming up in this 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Well, we have a late entry to What Is Wrong With You for today. what 30 seconds or less?
Not even
You
30.
got it went to break, and it was like 10 seconds after that.
I don't know whether to be mad or impressed or what. We went to commercial. I pulled the trigger on the commercial break, and immediately Linkon Cure announced that he is headed to Kansas State. Thank God we knew.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, thank God we knew.
Yeah, we
and it wasn't a surprise.
We weren't on pins and needles that whole first segment. We were able to kind of talk about like all the things we would have wanted to talk about had he committed at 4:05.
If you were on the YouTube channel and you could watch Brendan like walk out of the room because he was a little furious.
Stalking out of the room. I had to go calm myself down with a handful of M&Ms in my office.
So he goes
God.
with the purple trucker cap,
Yeah.
the mesh back with the Smiling Willie patch, which I like. I like Smiling Willie.
Agreed.
With the flag. That's one of my favorite K-State brands, I guess you would say.
I know that the Cats are going to keep it's going to be Power Cat everything. They don't change a whole lot, and I'm fine with that. I like when schools just do what they do, and they do it all the time, and they're consistent. I like that. I would like to see more Smilin' Willie. I like Smilin' Willie a lot. He's probably my favorite K-State mark as well. I believe that's a mark, technically. All right, we'll get to more of that a little bit later on. I am mad. I've decided that is my emotion right now. I am mad. I was so dang close. I think right after commercial break. All right, but we have to get to What Is Wrong With You. It is our championship for the month of June. I know it's July. We didn't get to it last week, but we got a full week in, and now we are going to pick our June champion in What Is Wrong With You. We've got 2 semifinals. Let's start with a story that I was not here for, guys, the pond jumper.
Yes.
Would anyone like to share this one with us?
I don't remember this one winning,
It's
to be
because-
completely honest.
It's because it was a very late winner that week.
Oh, so you weren't here. This was just you two.
Yes.
This was just Spencer and Trenton who were here.
That would be why.
All right, what's the TLDR here?
Basically, this guy was at a golf course, community golf course. He stole golf equipment. 46-year-old Jeffrey Treffy.
Okay.
Jeffrey Treffy in his red BMW. He stole some golf equipment, and it was notified to the right authorities that he was driving a red BMW. And
Easy to spot.
Then he made a U-turn, and deputies saw him as he saw a deputy car. He was driving, I believe he hit 110 miles an hour at one point, and then he jumped out and went into like a retaining pond. And he just swam around in this retaining pond, and he was like, nobody's going to come in the water to get me. They set up a perimeter. Several deputies tried for 20 minutes to get him out of the pond. After Treffy eventually got out of the water, they tased him and were able to arrest him.
Dude, it's golf clubs. This is not like millions of dollars of drugs.
He got charged with fleeing and eluding, reckless driving, resisting law enforcement without violence, and leaving the scene of a crash. Because he crashed his car. He didn't just get out of his car. He
crashed it as well. Yeah, geez, that's he was doing the most there. Our second semifinalist in this semifinal matchup, we're going to what we called the instant karma in Seattle when a driver was irate at the cost of his drive-through coffee. So instead of either paying or returning it, he argued, then threatened a barista and threw his coffee back at her through the window. However, the coffee shop knew about this guy. They recognized him. They knew he was a hothead. And she kept that thing on her. And that thing was a hammer, a ball-peen hammer. And she reaches out and smashed his windshield with it. At what point, this woman said, are we told we're supposed to just wait for it to get worse? No, the guy had told them that he was going to injure them and that nobody would miss the people working inside the coffee shop. Spencer, you brought up the point when this story came up. If he had been angry with these people enough times before that they recognized him, he had to have known the price of his coffee.
Yeah.
He had to have known this was going to happen. He still freaked out, and then he got a hammer to the windshield. So those are our first 2 semifinalists who we got here. Dan, you weren't here for either of these stories, so I'll give you the first vote.
I'm going to go with the guy swimming around in a retention pond for 20 minutes. Probably doing like a little synchronized swimming routine. Like it makes me think of that Saturday Night Live sketch where you have the male synchronized swimmers It's a very old sketch. I think it's like a Martin Short era, but I think about this guy doing flips and frolics in the retention pond and then getting tased as soon as he got out, which had to be worse because, again, soaking wet from being in a retention pond. I love that he was in there for 20 minutes planning his next move.
Yeah, I
getting
think
some laps in and pondering where he was going to go from there.
I think I'm going to join you with that. So that'll be the winner in this first
Yeah.
semifinal. I love the instant karma story, but I love it because of the karma. I like the retribution more than I like the what is wrong with you, I think. So for that reason, I'll go with the pond jumper. So that means pond jumper, you advance to the final in just a moment. Our second semifinal, turn your phone off. Spencer, I believe this was your story as well. The gentleman, Joshua Garrett, who was wanted after he had committed a crime. He had robbed a place, was on the run, went into this closed business and climbed into the ceiling.
I think it was where he worked, actually.
It was his place of business. Yes, you are correct. Thank you. So Garrett hides in the ceiling. The police had pinged him and they said, okay, we know he's in here, but we can't find him. We cannot find him in the building. Where could he have gone? Well, it was easy to find him eventually because his phone went off while he was hiding in the ceiling. They were able to break through and get him to come down. Turn your phone off. How many times over the years have we had a story where a guy forgot to turn his phone off during the commission of a crime? Or do you remember the time? I think it was robbing a house where a guy left his phone there.
I think that's right.
Yeah, just so many stories that could be avoided by just leave the iPhone at home, bro. You don't need the pedometer that badly. Just leave it there. You can check Instagram later. You do not need it in the commission of a crime.
Garrett was ultimately removed from the ceiling is my favorite part of this story.
That will go up against our final weekly winner from last month. We not so lovingly refer to him as Steroid Dad, Joshua Hammond from Richlands, Virginia, who is a wrestling dad. And he was not happy that the referee in his son's wrestling match had deducted points from his son for using an illegal hold. He had restricted the full range of motion of his opponent's foot, was grabbing onto his ankle. And the referee said, nope, docked points. You can't do that. And Steroid Dad Josh Hammond freaked the heck out, ran onto the mat, shoved the referee in the match. Full two-arm shiver right to the chest, knocked him down as other parents and the young competitors looked on in horror. He unfortunately messed around and found out because the guy he shoved was not just a purple belt in, jiu-jitsu?
Jiu-jitsu, yes.
A jiu-jitsu purple belt who also happens to be a lawyer, who also happens to be a popular TikToker named Speed Turtle, who then posted it all over social media. He has obviously drawn a lot of ire. Steroid Dad has. Oh, and by the way, his wife committed COVID fund fraud during the pandemic.
There was just so many levels to this story.
Just over and over, so many different things that went wrong for everybody involved here. So that is our second semifinal. It's Mr. Turn Your Phone Off versus Steroid Dad. Spencer, you get the first vote this time.
I mean, look, I said this on Friday. It's got to be nothing's topping that.
Steroid Dad?
Yeah, nothing's topping Steroid Dad.
Last week is one of the best weeks I think we've had all year.
I mean, we had multiple daily winners go down.
Yes, which does not happen often. We went through a period, was it late last year, maybe, Dan, or early this year, where we had wire-to-wire winners like 3 weeks in a row at one point.
I think that's right.
Coming out of the weekend. I'm with you, Spencer. I'm going to vote for Steroid Dad, too. I'm going to finish it off there. That story is great. Last week was a great week of stories overall. So that leaves us to our championship matchup for June in What Is Wrong With You. We've got the pond jumper, the man who stole golf clubs, drove 110 miles an hour, freaked out when the cops came, and then did some laps in a retention pond to buy some time before being tased. Or we have, as we just read, Steroid Dad. Who you got?
I don't know if it's going to win. I have a suspicion it's not, but I got to vote for the pond jumper.
Really?
I just think that's a funnier story. I think it's more amusing. Guy stole some golf clubs and sped off.
He also had a red car.
Yes, like if you're like speeding in a red car, you may as well write "arrest me" on like the rear window. And then he just killed time in the retention pond for 20 minutes. I'm sure the police were just standing there with their hands on their hips, maybe playing on their phones, watching him.
Something's got to happen at some point, right?
Yeah, like he's got to make a move. Like he can't, like this is where I live now, under the sea, under the sea. Like, yeah,
You gonna come in here?
that's your solution for everything. Live under the sea. It's never gonna happen.
All right.
That's a funnier story to me. I'm sorry.
So that's one for
Then
Pond to Jumper.
some roided up dad, so mad that his kid's a crappy wrestler. Like, I don't know. I like the Pond Jumper better. I think it's a funnier story. That may just be me, but that's my vote.
Spencer?
This is a tough one because like part of me really wants to vote for the story that I chose, but the other part of me is like this steroid dad's a ridiculous story. So I gotta go with steroid dad because that's me being honest. As I told you, I'm in this honest.
He's telling us the truth.
Yeah.
All right. That is one vote each. The YouTube comments are all over steroid dad. It appears to be unanimous for everybody who's watching along on the YouTube stream. Again, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. This is good. Dan, you have made a very strong argument for the Pond Jumper, but I am going to go with steroid dad. When you get a nickname in a story, I think that really helps hammer the point home.
It does.
And we got two. We got Steroid Dad, and we also got the self-titled Speed Turtle involved. You're right, Spencer. There's so many levels.
Yeah.
That's what this is. The other one, to me, it's very funny. You stole something, you committed a crime, then you got wild in desperation. This is just one after the other after the other. The COVID fund fraud at the end is such a fun little cherry on top, except for the people who were defrauded, obviously. So I am going to go with Steroid Dad as our winner, and that is our monthly winner for June in What Is Wrong With You. So Steroid Dad will advance to the month of December and to our end of the year What Is Wrong With You Tournament of Failed Champions.
Quick question. When was the last time you had an intern before Trenton?
Our last intern pre-Trenton was our good pal Marco Marquez.
Yeah, Marco.
Marco was around
He was-
18 or 19.
He was an intern in 18 and then did some more stuff for us in 19 and 20.
Yeah, he became our producer.
So is Trenton the first intern to have his What Is Wrong With You story win a month?
No, Marco had a story.
Yeah,
I'm
Marco,
pretty
I think,
certain.
did.
All right.
Yeah. Fulton was never an intern. Fulton was not full-time. Fulton was part-time for a while, but he never had intern status. But yeah, no, that's Trenton, good story. Well done, Trenton Crackster. We have to get to a commercial break here on 580 Sports Talk, but when we come back, some more from the NFL, some more from Linkon Cure. That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. 447 here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, Spencer as well here with you. Trenton Craxner across the glass. If you're watching on the YouTube feed, which can also be found at 580wibw.com on the WIBW News Facebook page and at 580 Sports Talk on Twitter, you saw our camera fall down. It was very funny.
It did.
Yeah.
It just decided that it was done. You know, it's not 6 o'clock, but it was 6 o'clock somewhere for the camera, and the show's over.
You think it's the humidity that hurts the suction on our cameras?
That's as good a guess as any.
Because this one studio doesn't have the best airflow either.
It gets a little sticky in here. That
I mean, we had the problem on Friday with our fans with a plan sign.
Yes, we finally got that was also, we were reusing the same tape for a full month.
That is true.
Which, honestly, the fact that it held up as long as it did was pretty good in the studio. We are, of course, coming live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio here with you on 580 Sports Talk today. So, after making me look like a clown a little bit earlier on, Linkon Cure does commit to K-State. That's a big win for the Cats. I would have been a lot more upset if this was not obvious. Yeah. I would have felt way worse going to commercial, right?
Like if we went to commercial and then he just pulled a flipperoo and went to your alma mater, you would have.
It would have been a pretty awkward next segment. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would have been. What is wrong with you? All you fools who thought he was going. No, I'm just kidding. But he could have pulled a Cliff Alexander.
Yes, he could have.
Among others who have done that. What a moment of all players to have that historic cap reveal. For those who don't remember, when Cliff Alexander from Chicago picked up an Illinois hat, threw it back down. They committed to KU basketball for the class of 2014.
Who was that guy where he pissed off his mom?
Oh gosh, football. He was supposed to go to Bama and committed to LSU, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Spencer, I will look it up at the top of the hour.
What I'm talking about,
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. On TV at the Army, All-Star game or whatever.
The All-American game. Stomped out of there as she said so.
Oh, she was so mad. Oh, I don't remember. Was it Landon Collins?
I don't remember.
It might have been Landon Collins.
No, he went to Bama.
Maybe I had it backwards. He was supposed to get to LSU, went to Bama. I don't remember. We'll look that up. But obviously a big, big day for the Kansas State Wildcats football program. Big day for Texas Tech football, too. They unveiled new uniforms today, which are actually just KU's uniforms, but with black and red instead of crimson and blue, which, fine, I guess, whatever. They look fine. They look good on KU. I'm sure they'll look good for Texas Tech. Patrick Mahomes and Adidas and Texas Tech were teasing something the other day. Texas Tech is dropping Under Armour as their athletic apparel provider. And it was always funny when Patrick Mahomes would show up at Texas Tech events because he is an Adidas athlete. So he had to put tape over his gear, over the logo every time he'd go to a Texas Tech game because he couldn't be wearing Under Armour gear out in public like that.
He would write Adidas on the tape.
So they turned that into a marketing campaign. The other day, they posted a picture with fake tape on a T-shirt, fake tape on midfield at Jones AT&T Stadium down in Lubbock. Well, today they had the reveal, pulling the tape off the field, off the helmets and everything. At midfield, stretching from from the 32-yard line on the left-hand side to about the 34-yard line on the right-hand side, you now have the Texas Tech logo down in Lubbock, the Adidas logo, and Patrick Mahomes' logo, his personal logo on the field at Tech.
Is this all possible because of the thing that they just made? The resolution that they...
No, because since he's a professional.
Oh, yeah.
So that it won't have any impact on him.
No, I was talking about the one about logos on fields.
Oh, you might be right about that. Now that they allow corporate logos, it might be.
Is it also just because their official outfitter is Adidas?
I'm actually not sure what the exact thing is. No, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. No, you might be right about that, Spencer. Because now they have more allowance for corporate sponsors on fields.
So we've been saying for a long time that Mahomes is Jordan, and now he really is like Jordan because he's the only other athlete other than Jordan to have his logo on the field for his alma mater or on the uniform for his alma mater.
The funniest,
it was like UNC wearing Jumpman.
The funniest thing about that, though, and obviously it was not Patrick Mahomes' fault that they weren't very good. It's not. But the funniest thing about it is didn't he have a losing record in college?
500-ish.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild to have this. If he had been a Heisman Trophy winner or he had taken them to a New Year's Six Bowl or something while he was there, I mean, yeah, duh, you're going to put that everywhere. But it is funny that it is entirely because of his professional career. And don't get me wrong, Patrick Mahomes was so cool at Texas Tech. He was awesome.
Yeah, that game where he had over 700 all-purpose yards.
Over 800. He had 734 just passing.
700 passing yards, 800 all-purpose yards. They lost that game. Like, that's the Patrick Mahomes Texas
by
Tech
multiple
appearance.
scores.
Yes, that's the Patrick Mahomes Texas Tech experience. Super cool player playing a lot of mediocre football. Like, not personally, but playing on a lot of mediocre teams.
That's actually a great question. What is your favorite college, like, not favorite, because that could be you could explain that any number of ways, but like the best game you remember watching of college football that's not considered like one of the all-time greatest games? Like the Rose Bowl, Texas versus USC for the national title. That might be the greatest game of all time. I'm thinking like no one is going to write a book about the 5 greatest games ever. That Texas Tech Oklahoma game is not going to end up in it. But that might be one of my favorite games I've ever watched my entire life. Like, no emotional connection. It was just Baker Mayfield and Patrick Mahomes going insane for 60 minutes.
I would volunteer a couple of ultimately meaningless Michigan and Notre Dame games. The Denard Robinson comeback, Hail Mary to Jeremy Gallon, and then the Roy Roundtree to beat Notre Dame under the lights at Michigan Stadium.
I can hear Brent Musburger's voice.
Musburger on the call.
Roy Roundtree.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So yeah, that one stands out.
For me, it's one of the all-time great games. The kick return or field goal.
The kick six.
Well, that's a little too prominent, I think, for the prom.
That's just one of my favorite ones. The call, like it all, like at the very like.
That's a rare game, but if you go back and watch the clips, I've always admired this. If you listen to the home radio or the TV broadcast, they're both great.
Yes.
Like some games, the Stanford band play, which has been shared on social media a bunch today because Stanford and Cal have both left the Pac-12 now for the ACC. The call you often hear when you watch that clip is not the TV call. The TV call stinks. It's not good, but the radio call was awesome.
Yeah, Joe Starkey does the iconic call of that. Yeah, the Vern Lundquist nailed the kick six, and then the late Rob Bramblett, the voice of the Auburn Tigers, also. They're not going to keep him off the field tonight.
Auburn wins. Man.
Auburn wins the football game.
Rest in peace, Rob Bramblett. What an all-time great. Yeah, I think that Tech Oklahoma game might be tops of the list for me. It was just so, honestly, another one. It wasn't even a great, really well-played game. I didn't even watch it. I listened to it on the radio. Joe Burrow going for 7 touchdowns and a half against Oklahoma in the college football playoff. Like, that was the moment I thought, we already knew he was great and he was having a great season. That might be the best individual quarterback performance I've ever, paid attention to.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
Absolutely remarkable. We've got 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk today. We'll come on back, get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We've got some more Royals baseball to get to, plus your texts and your comments on the YouTube stream. All that and more is coming up after our national and local news on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Sports Talk coming your way. Brendan Dworzinski here, Dan Lucero there, Spencer Dupuis there, and Trenton Kraxner over there. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on this Monday, July 1st. We are officially, guys, halfway through the year.
That's wild.
That is wild. That has gone by in a whole hell of a hurry. But we're going to celebrate this halfway point of the year with our 580 Sports Talk headlines coming up here momentarily. We've got a bunch of them today. We will also get to some more Royals talk, revisiting our expectations from the start of the month of June, where they are now, what is still to come for this Royals team in the second half of the season. We will touch on your texts to the Top City Metal Supply text line, and we will get to your comments on the YouTube feed as well. And do not forget that we are live today and every day from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. I'd like to make one more pitch to you, by the way. Go check out our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. All sorts of great stuff over there. Our daily shows, the entire backlog of shows, all the way back to Halloween of 2022. Every one of them.
You could also watch the first show where you guys asked me a bunch of questions.
We have that show on there. We've got obviously the first one. We've got Jake's final show. If you want to relive some tears, you want to go watch Jake cry, you can go tune into that from December. That's one of our most watched shows on YouTube ever, I believe.
Naturally, Jake equals ratings.
Clearly,
You guys had a ton of guests on that show too.
right? Oh my God! It was a who's who of everybody who had ever worked here, I think, came in and said something during that show. So go check out all of our awesome video content. Plenty more coming. Trenton has been in the lab. He's been cooking something up. He's got some plans for some content for the YouTube. That's all coming up your way. Go subscribe now. Get in on the ground floor. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. All right, who's ready for some 580 Sports Talk headlines today?
Let's do it.
All right, number one for me. Rock Chalk Olympic Jayhawk Bryce Hoppel is headed to the Paris Olympics after last night smashing the previous U.S. track and field trials record by running the 800 meters in a time of just 1 minute, 42.77 seconds. That is a personal best. That is a U.S. trials best. It won the race last night at the track and field finals, and that means that Bryce Hoppel from Midland, Texas, and from the University of Kansas is headed to Paris, his first Olympic Games. He has won in international gold before. In fact, it was just earlier this year in Glasgow, Scotland, won the 800 meters at the World Indoor Championships, also finished bronze at the World Indoors in 2022 in Belgrade, Serbia. He is one of 3 Americans who qualified. It was top 3 finishers in the final heat, qualified for the Paris Olympics. Hobbs Kessler, who is the training partner, in fact, of Bryce Hoppel. They were wearing the same singlet or whatever it was yesterday. Also, Brandon Miller from Texas A&M, he qualified. Bryce smoked him. It was almost a full second win in the 800. It's such an interesting race because it's not quite long. Like, the middle distance is so funny to me because you really have to balance, when are you going to sprint? When does the kick come in? And he cruised down the final home stretch. Awesome for Bryce Hoppel. He is the number 5 ranked racer in the world in the 800 heading into the Olympic Games. That is awesome for Bryce Hoppel. And the other note here, too, let's not forget, this is going to be a Jayhawk reunion in Paris because Stanley Redwine, the head coach of KU track and field, is also the head coach of Team USA track and field. The Olympics will begin in less than a month, July 26th from Paris, France. That'll be live at 12:30 Central Time. I imagine they're going to move that to prime time on tape delay on NBC. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, that feels like a primetime type of event.
Yeah, it's cool. I love the opening ceremony. I've never watched a closing ceremony, and I love everything about the Olympics. I've never watched the closing ceremony. There's a lot less fanfare for that one.
Trying to think. I might have watched the London closing ceremony
before Rio. Rio was the next time.
Yeah, Rio was 16. London was the 2012 games.
Because I know they always do a little something artistic or, Cirque du Soleil for the next host of the Summer Games.
I do try to catch. I do catch some of the opening ceremonies. Just
I'll see Team USA.
Yeah, I like the Olympics. I
love them. I love them so much. We're gonna have to do something Olympics related, other than we'll do some of our own physical feats of strength at some point this summer. But We'll have to, I don't know, make bets or something on the Olympics. Any of you guys going to get into gambling on Olympic handball with me?
No.
I'm going to tell you what, back in 2021 in Tokyo, Denmark, cash money.
There was a time I had disposable income to gamble on things like Olympic badminton, and then I had a child. So that's not going to
When are the Olympics?
this month?
Like,
Yeah,
what's the date?
They start the 26th. That's the opening ceremonies.
Oh, dang. I'll be gone. I'll be on vacation.
They also, by the way, I did not know this until last night. They have an event that's going on in Tahiti.
Yeah, the surfing.
Yeah, which is awesome. But that's a long way from Paris.
This is extremely long way from Paris.
Are you excited for when they come to the U.S.? It's going to be a long time from now. We might not be around in 4 years.
28, yeah.
2028.
Yeah, we'll see if that's a real year or not.
Yeah. They have events that are happening outside of Los Angeles, although Oklahoma City is not quite as far away from L.A. as Tahiti is from France.
Sure as hell is a long way.
Yeah.
All right, first headline for me today. The 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame class was announced last night, and this year, the ceremony honoring the 12 Hall of Famers will be here in Topeka. It will be held at the Sunflower Ballroom of the Hotel Topeka City Center. It is coming October 13th. That is a Sunday in the capital city. The Hall of Fame, of course, at the Wichita Boathouse. If you've never been, I've had a chance to go. It was a long time ago, but I've had a chance to go visit the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Pretty cool little place to visit and check out next time you're in the Air Capital. But the 12 nominees, or the 12 member class, was announced yesterday in alphabetical order. The honorees include Dave Bingham, who coached Emporia State to an NAIA National Baseball Championship and also skippered KU to the College World Series.
1993, I believe?
I think that is correct. Yes, that is correct. Eric Kennard, who was an outdoor national champion and Olympic gold medalist high jumper. Also, he competed at Kansas State and was the back-to-back NCAA outdoor champion in 2012 and 2013 and won the gold medal in London in 2012 in that event. Melvin Lister, national champion in the long jump at Leavenworth High School, went to Butler Community College and then to Arkansas. He won JUCO national championships in the long jump and the triple jump. Mark Mangino,
the man genius,
head coach for the Orange Bowl champions at KU. He needs very little introduction, certainly not as much as maybe the previous three names did. But Mark Mangino going into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. Ron Nugent, who went to Wichita East High School, swam for the Wichita Swim Club, won 2 Big 8 individual titles at Kansas, and would have been a member of the 1980 U.S. Olympic team had the United States not boycotted those games. Kelly Rankin from Clay Center played baseball and competed in track and field at the University of Kansas and was the head track and field starter for the 1984 and 1996 Olympic Games in Los Angeles and Atlanta. He's the only American to be selected as the head starter for 2 separate Olympic Games. He's also a gymnastics officiated 5 Big 8 gymnastics championships as well. Scott Russell, who was a 2-time NCAA track and field national champion at KU, the outdoor javelin and the indoor weight throw in 2002, was a 6-time All-America selection and represented Canada in the 2008 Olympics. Kevin Saunders from Downs, Kansas, and Kansas State, who became paralyzed in 1981 and began competing in Paralympic-style events and was a Paralympic bronze medalist twice, once in 1998 in the men's pentathlon and once in 1992, also in the men's pentathlon. Will Shields, former Kansas City Chief, you know the name, outstanding offensive lineman for many, many years, Nebraska Cornhusker, was born in Fort Riley, Kansas, went to high school in Lawton, Oklahoma, attended Nebraska, and was a outstanding Chief, all-decade team member in the 2000s, and was one of only 2 active players named to the Chiefs' 40th anniversary team in 1999. Sean Snyder, another one that doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. The former K-State football player, was Defensive Newcomer of the Year in the Big 8 as a punter in 1991.
He go to K-State?
Yes.
I only know him as a KU coach.
All right. Member of the K-State Football Ring of Honor, spent 26 seasons as a coach and administrator at K-State, has also coached at USC, Illinois, and, yes, Kansas. Mark Turgeon, Hayden Great, KU standout, 479 wins as a men's basketball head coach, including most notably at Wichita State, Texas A&M, and Maryland. And Annette Wiles from Sylvan Grove and Fort Hays State University helped the women's basketball team of Fort Hays State to the 1991 NAIA National Championship and won 409 games as a head coach, including 7 years at Bethany College and 8 years at Fort Hays State. Those are your new members for the 2024 Kansas Sports Hall of Fame class. Again, the induction ceremony will be held in the Sunflower Ballroom of the Hotel Topeka City Center, Sunday, October 13th.
What a class. Let's just say that. What a class. That is unbelievable. Congratulations to all incredibly well-deserved.
First headline for me is it's another year and we have another set of new rules and new format for the Home Run Derby coming up here in a couple of weeks. It was announced last night. First, we'll start with the competition flow. First round, 8 hitters, top 4 advance, ties broken by the longest home run in the first round. Semifinals, bracket style 3 versus 2 and 4 versus 1, based on first round home run totals. And then obviously in the final round, the top 2 face off. And then getting to the rules. First round and semifinals, you get 3-minute rounds, 40 pitches, 1 timeout, 3 bonus outs. Every swing is a home run or an out. A 425-foot home run in the bonus period earns a 4th bonus out. And in the finals, 2-minute round, 27 pitches, 1 timeout, same bonus rules apply. They just keep changing the rules every few years, and it's really annoying.
I liked the format they've been using for the last few years.
Yes.
Here is I like the Home Run Derby. It's the only all-star or all-star adjacent event I really care about or intend to watch every year. My one reason why I'm hopeful that a new format will be good, if you have a limit on the number of pitches, you can do them a little bit slower and you can actually watch the home run. It has become, the actual competition has been awesome for the last few years. Watching it on TV, I don't know if it's ESPN's just bad at it or it's too quick or what. It is really hard to keep up with every home run.
It is bad television now, which is too bad because it used to be great television.
Yeah. I hope this is a sweet spot because it's fun. I like the Home Run Derby.
I do too. Who doesn't love dingers, man? Who doesn't love watching big, strong dinger boppers bop some dingers?
Not me. I love it.
It's one of my favorite things. I never miss it.
I kind of like having the first round be just top 4 because sometimes you get great that you end up with one where 2 guys both hit 30, 32 and 31, but only one can advance. Then you have a battle where it's, one hits 8 and one hits 7 and someone advances. So I kind of like that adjustment. I hope it's better TV. I'm in favor of this.
Yeah,
at least giving it a trial.
Yeah, I like the top 4 advancing out of the first round, so doing a bracket from the first round. I like that. I prefer that, I think.
Next headline for me involving a very good friend of 580 Sports Talk here in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. He is your 2024 Kansan of the Year, and his name, ladies and gentlemen, is Mitchie the Kid, Mitchell G, Mitch Holthus. He has been named the Kansan of the Year by the Kansas Society of Washington, D.C. I'm going to be honest with you. I had absolutely no idea that was a thing. Now I know, though, and I know that Mitch Holthus is your Kansan of the Year. It's Kansans who live in the nation's capital.
And they just decide a person of the year who's on halfway across the country?
Yeah. Essentially. This is from the Hastings Tribune. Holthus has been on the radio with the Chiefs since 94. He has called now all the Super Bowl victories of the Patrick Mahomes era. His work also extends to television and internet platforms as he hosts Chiefs Insider, The Minute with Mitch, and more, such as the 580 Sports Talk Chiefs Training Camp Reports, which will be coming your way in just a few weeks. He also spent 13 years as the voice of the Wildcats and spent 28 seasons as a television broadcaster for college basketball as well, most notably in his beloved Missouri Valley Conference. He also accepts engagements as a motivational speaker, 5-time Emmy Award Award winner, Kansas Association of Broadcasters Hall of Fame, Kansas State University Athletics Hall of Fame, 6-time, that's more than Booker T, 6-time Kansas Sportscaster of the Year. The Smith County native, the pride of Smith Center, Kansas.
Happy for Mitch. Very cool honor in a career and life full of them. And I'm sure that it will honor him greatly because he is certainly proud to be a Kansan, proud of this state and an advocate for all things Kansas in every way. So I am sure this is a great thrill for him. By the way, every state has a society in Washington, D.C.
Did you just look that up?
Yes.
I did not know that.
There is a national conference of state societies.
Oh, fun.
So literally, we
fun
live in a
facts today.
society.
Yes. More information, go to statesocieties.org.
Fun facts brought to you by Dan Lucero.
No, that's good. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
love stuff like that. I love learning new things. I was not always a fan of school, but I love to learn. And so I appreciate in this sort of environment. Mitch also does, real quick, Mitch does a bunch of charity stuff too. He's involved in everything the Chiefs do. He's the nicest guy. I mean, he's always generous with his time, and he has none of it. He has no time ever for anything. He's obviously very important here in Shawnee County from his many years. Worked here at one point, is entrenched in the Silver Lake community still to this day. It's awesome. And I couldn't be happier for such a great guy who has always been very good to us as well. And I don't say this because he's been good to us, but he has always been very kind and generous with his time with us. And I appreciate it, and I'm very happy for him.
So it's been a while since statesocieties.org has been updated, I think. So what they are, the societies provide expatriates of states who live in the greater Washington area with a special nonpartisan venue that enables them to share in a wide variety of receptions, dinners, picnics, ceremonies, and sporting events. They bring together members of Congress, Capitol Hill staff, journalists, students, government affairs professionals, military staff, diplomats, attorneys, trade association staff, and business leaders who share their home state heritage in a relaxed and nonpartisan atmosphere of goodwill and good fun. Here's the tip-off that this has not been updated in a long time. The value lies in offering a place where partisan tensions can melt away in memories. Well, that's a tip-off right then and
Right there, yeah.
Partisan tensions melting away in this economy, in this particular election year. Yeah, that's not happening. But no, the value lies in offering a place where partisan tensions can melt away and memories shared and enthusiasm rekindled for the Chicago Cubs of 1969, the Detroit Tigers of 1945, the Green Bay Packers Super Bowl winners of this year, eating Maryland crab cakes last Saturday, or singing Florida college songs tonight.
They also haven't updated their meeting schedule. Their next meeting, Tuesday, February 20th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. You'll receive a Zoom invite if you paid your $175 dues.
This is very funny. I also did just find out that is the group that restarted the Cherry Blossom Festival in Washington.
Oh, wow.
To further peace with Japan following World War II.
How about that?
Wow, we've learned a lot today on
Yeah.
580 Sports Talk. Let's learn something else.
Who
Dan,
knew that headlines would lead to that?
I know. I'm loving it. What's your next headline?
We got some Big 12 news. The University of Utah. Yes, they're in the Big 12. Formerly named
As of 17 hours ago.
They have formally named defensive coordinator Morgan Scalley as the successor, the coach in waiting to longtime football coach Kyle Whittingham. While no retirement day has been set for Whittingham, Scalley's most recent contract calls for him to become the school's next head coach whenever Whittingham decides to step down. Scalley is entering his 17th season on the Utah staff. His contract includes a starting salary of at least $5 million per year if he's elevated at the end of this season, and that number increases by $100,000 each subsequent year, topping out at $5.4 million after January 16th of 2028. Now, Whittingham is 65 and entering his 20th season as head coach, but again, there's no timetable for his departure. This is the second time that Utah has named Morgan Scalley the coach in waiting to follow Kyle Whittingham.
Mm-hmm.
The first time was in 2020. Then the school rescinded that title and cut his salary by more than half. Why would they have done such a thing, you might ask? Well, there was an outside investigation into his use of a racial slur in a text message 7 years earlier. An outside law firm review interviewed 35 people and found a majority of former players were surprised at the reports and had a positive relationship with Scalley. What about the pun? Absolutely not intended. minority of former players. What about those who are like, yeah, man, that wasn't surprising to me at all. Yeah, I've heard him maybe say those things or express those feelings and values before.
Now that you say this, I remember talking about this during my internship when I was filling in on the sports talk show.
Yeah, I had forgotten about this completely until you just gave the details.
Yeah, I absolutely had forgotten about this as well. Scally has taken part since in regular and ongoing diversity and inclusion education. I heard a lot of people and learned so much, Scally said. Education leads to understanding, and that leads to empathy and meaningful action. I'm grateful that the administration worked with me through that difficult time. I'm particularly grateful to the players who showed so much love and grace. He's entering his 9th season as the defensive coordinator and has earned a reputation as one of the best coordinators in the country. Kyle Whittingham's a really good coach.
Awesome coach.
It's going to be hard, I think, to replace what he has been at Utah. And I think that the signal that what he has done and what he has represented at Utah is going to be hard to replace is the fact that they put a succession plan together behind him to try and keep things running as smoothly as possible whenever it is that Whittingham decides he's had enough of coaching. Which at 65, that could be after this year.
It could be any time, really. And they made it clear, like, this doesn't mean anything. Please do not think this means anything. We promise it does not. I mean, you have to think that. He is a great coach. They got some wild boys on the group of coordinators at Utah between Morgan Scally and maybe using racial slurs. Also, as I've brought up on the show before, whatever his name is, Shah, their special teams coordinator, whose wife is in federal prison for scamming old people.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah, real bad. Former member of the
Real
cast
Housewives?
of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jen Shah. I don't remember what her husband's name is, but yeah, wild crew of coordinators in Utah. Who is the other one who's there? Either left recently or, oh my God, the offensive coordinator. He went to Notre Dame.
Not Brian Johnson.
No.
Brian Johnson?
I gotta go find this. Shoot, it's gonna kill me. He left when Andy Ludwig.
No, he's currently their OC.
Okay, right. They wanted Colin Klein. Klein said no. They went after Andy Ludwig. He also said no. And then they ended up hiring, I don't even remember who.
Which is appropriate because Ludwig accepted the offensive coordinator position at K-State after the 2009 Sugar Bowl, but then took the same job at Cal 2 months later.
Ooh. Things have changed a lot at both of those programs since 2009, guys.
Imagine taking a job at K-State and then deciding, actually, you know where I'd rather be? Berkeley.
You know, I do kind of get it. Like, Cal had been decent for a while, and there was no way of knowing that Bill Snyder was going to win titles again.
Jeff Tedford was the coach. He had a really good reputation for working with quarterbacks, and that was kind of Ludwig's whole thing. Like, it did, I guess, make a little sense.
Yeah. In retro, with the benefit of hindsight, though, yikes. Anything else from you today, Spencer?
Yeah, I think I hit on this Friday, or we hit on this Friday, that unfortunately Dick Vitale has more cancer. They found cancerous cancer in his lymph nodes. He is having surgery tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, I'm assuming, as he continues to battle with cancer. And for him, it's just like one thing after another.
I have said this on the program before, and we like to joke about Dick Vitale and his use of the internet, which is really funny. He's just the funniest tweeter there is.
Always tagging his boss in like nice tweets about him.
Constantly. And always, he tweets like he talks. And I know for a lot of people that's annoying. I'm going to tell you this. There are so many people, just generally speaking, in life that kind of go through life just sort of going through the motions and maybe not showing a lot of like passion for the thing they do or the things they care about. I'm not sure anyone is as passionate about anything as Dick Vitale is about two things. One, college basketball, and two, helping kids with cancer. And he has raised so much money on his own behalf and as part of the V Foundation at ESPN to raise money specifically for kids with cancer. He and his wife and their foundation, and they're part of the V Foundation, they've raised so much money. It blows your mind. They have done so much good work. Josh Krulowitz, who does PR for ESPN, he shared a text message that he got from Dickie V after this most recent diagnosis, in which he ends it. Dick Vitale, 85 years old, multi-time cancer survivor, going through surgery again, said this: More than ever, these battles have inspired me more than ever to raise money for kids battling cancer. Youngsters should not have to deal with what goes into dealing with cancer. Hell, I'm 85. I've lived a blessed life, but kids don't deserve the frustration of fighting cancer. Yes, I'm 85. Act 25. Look 105. That makes me want to cry, dude. He is such a good person, and I get that he's grading and the Duke EV stuff is annoying. You know what? I'd rather have excited and genuine than either fake excitement or going through the motions. So I love Dickie V, and I hope he gets through this as healthy as can be.
It's not shtick. It's never been shtick. It's genuine enthusiasm for what he does and the sport that he covers and for life. And it has been so hard to watch someone who is, even in his advanced age, so full of life, go through what Dick Vitale has had to go through the last couple of years, to have his voice taken away from him. Like that's what we think of when we think of Dick Vitale, to have his voice taken from him. There's a special cruelty in that, a special level of cruelty. So I was really excited. I think everybody was, about the possibility to have Dick Vitale back in the booth with a headset on for this coming college basketball season. And God willing, that's still going to be possible. And he can kick cancer's butt once again. But all the best to Dickie V, because I again, like you said, you laid out all of the things that people use to criticize Dick Vitale, but you are going to miss him when we don't have him in college basketball and college sports anymore. You will miss that voice.
You and I have had this conversation before, maybe a couple of times, Dan. What sport do any other sports have someone who is so, like a broadcaster, who is so just, like, you think about college basketball, and one of the first things you probably think about is Dickie V.
Yes, if you say this sport and then broadcaster, like the Family Feud, 100 out of 100 answers are going to be Dick Vitale.
Dick Vitale,
say college basketball.
Yeah.
But there really isn't. No other sport has an active one. I don't believe.
I don't think so either.
I mean, I would have said a few years ago, Vince Scully.
So, yeah, I think Vin.
But even him, very regional for the last 20, 25 years, right? He was just doing Dodger games. Like back in the 80s when he was doing, the game of the week and everything. Yeah, probably. But
folks of a certain vintage would probably tell you Jack Buck.
Certainly around here.
Yeah.
Certainly in the
in this area.
around here, I was saying in the Midwest.
Yeah.
In the broader Midwest.
Sure.
Yeah. Harry Carey would have been an answer to that. But yeah, like Dick Vitale is college basketball.
He is. Yeah. I hope he can get back to do a game at some point this year. I really do. He deserves it. I mean that wholeheartedly, 100% genuinely. That wraps up today's 580 Sports Talk headlines. When we come back, revisiting our expectations for the Royals at the start of June. How right were we? And what's next for this Royals team? That's coming up on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Dan, Spencer, Trenton here with you on 580 Sports Talk, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. We appreciate you hanging out with us today. Fun show coming up tomorrow. The guys will talk to Michael Swain from Fog.net for Jayhawk Weekly. Get you ready for the Royals series against the Tampa Bay Rays. Talk some college football, maybe a little NFL football mixed in. That's coming up tomorrow. Dan, Spencer, Trenton will have you for 580 Sports Talk tomorrow right here on 580 WIBW. Real quick, I'm very hyped up about this. So KU Athletics is updating its website today. They're just putting all sorts of, graphic updates to it. Nice, sprucing it up a little bit. And now the different sports have different logos on there. There's a specific one with script Jayhawks for baseball. The basketball team, it has the traditional happy walking Jayhawk. The football team, though, I know a lot of KU fans have been clamoring for more of this. 1941, the angry Jayhawk, the World War II Jayhawk. Put that on everything. That's going to be sick. They used that graphic in some of the renderings of the new stadium, too, like the fake video board. They put that on there. I think we're going to see a lot of that this coming year. Probably at Media Day next week.
I like it better than the timid flamingo Jayhawk from the
1912.
Okay, further back.
Sexy legs? Yeah.
Yeah, the shy Jayhawk. I was wondering if you would attend the Sadie Hawkins dance with me, Jayhawk.
Trenton is informing me that actually the KU men's golf team gets that one assigned to it.
So
that's funny.
That's awesome.
Are they gonna? I don't know. I feel like it's the turf field. Are they gonna put a different logo on the turf field?
They might. That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be really cool to see that on there.
What was currently on it?
It was just
the regular Jayhawk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big J.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. They have, if you've never seen, I don't know if you would have when you were in Lawrence at any point for a game, Spencer, but KU takes a lot of pride in the evolution of the Jayhawk logo from the funny leggy one that Dan was talking about to a couple of really crappy ones there for a while in the 20s. And then they had the sick one for 1941 during World War II, and then the happy one since then. The funniest KU picture, I think, of all time, KU Athletics picture from the final border war. So it was 2012. It was 100 years of the Jayhawk logo. So they made a costume for the leggy Jayhawk. And you can see it after the final border war at Allen Fieldhouse, walking around flapping its wings as a Missouri player cries sitting on the floor. It is maybe my favorite KU picture of all time. It is just so funny. All right, let's get back to what we originally wanted to talk about here. Royals baseball. 12-15 in the month of June. It's not great. It is not awful. Based on how badly they played against some pretty dang good teams, you can live with that. It is why, Spencer, you've been on this since the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Dan, you and I have talked about it plenty too. You knew you were going to hit a hard part of the schedule. This was not a Royals team, as exciting as they were at the start of the year, that was going to win 100 games. They just weren't. But so you knew if you win a bunch of those games early, all they did was beat the White Sox. Oh, does that count differently than beating the Yankees? Are they weighted differently? No, they count all the same. So pounding the White Sox and other teams of their ilk was really good for this team, because then you can come out of a 12-15 June just below 500 and still be well over 500 as we head into the second half of the year. That's important. That is a really big deal, and I think that's a really vital thing for this Royals team. Do you feel like, how do I want to phrase this? Like, do you feel as though this past month told us anything we didn't already know about this Royals team? Is it encouraging that they ended it so well heading into this stretch pre-All-Star break? Are they essentially where you thought they would be?
So when we talked about it at the beginning of the month, which was really the end of May, when they started that series with San Diego, They had the 3-game series with San Diego that wrapped around the first 2 days of the month of June. And so counting that game, which they lost, it was 12-16 over that stretch. And we looked at that stretch at the time and said, if they go 500 this month, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Given the quality of competition that they were going to be playing against, given the difficulty in particular of that gauntlet they had to run where they went Cleveland, Seattle, New York, and the Dodgers without an off day in between, at least on paper. They ended up getting the free off day with the rain out in Cleveland. But that looked like such a gauntlet in the middle of the month where it was entirely possible they were going to come out of that and struggle. Like lose 2 out of 3 in Cleveland, lose 3 out of 4 of the Yankees, get swept at Dodger Stadium. They ended up against the first place teams on their schedule in the month of June playing 500 ball. They did exactly that against Cleveland. The 6 games they played against Cleveland, they went 4-2. They went 2-1 against Seattle. They lost 3 out of 4 of the Yankees. They lost 2 out of 3 of the Dodgers. 8-8 against those teams. That to me is kind of taking care of business. Like that's what you want to do against the best teams of your schedule, is be about 500, and then you want to beat up on the teams that aren't as good, right? Like you want to go 10-3 against the White Sox, and then that helps you out if you just go 500 against those teams. So they went 8-8 against first place teams. Against the Padres, the A's, the Rangers, and the Marlins, they went 4-7. And if you told me it was going to be the reverse, and that's how they ended up going 12-15, I would have said, yeah, I think then we would have learned what we would have learned in that instance was, all right, this Royals team has a chance at a wild card, but they're not cut out to run with the big dogs. Like they are not cut out to really make a run in the Central. They are not legitimately an American League pennant contender.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit weird that you come out of this month thinking they held their own against, I wouldn't say they held their own against the Yankees. Yankees beat them to smithereens in 2 of those 3 losses.
Yeah.
But they took 2 out of 3 from Seattle, split that season series, went 4-2 against Cleveland. I mean, that's the team they're trying to catch. And I said it at the very top of the show, when you watch the Guardians and the Royals play, there's nothing between those 2 teams. Like when you watch the Yankee series, it was like there was a gulf in class, right? Like, boy, that's a better team. Like even in a 4-game sample, you could see it. That's a better baseball team. When you watch the Guardians and the Royals, I feel like you see 2 pretty evenly matched ball clubs. And so I still think you come out of this month, even though you're 12-15, even though you go from being on a 98 win pace to an 89 loss pace, even though you've lost 4 games on your wild card spot cushion and 3 games of distance in the division, still feel like you come out of this feeling like the Royals can contend in the American League Central, that it's not a pipe dream to win the division, to run down a Cleveland team that is scraping the bottom of the barrel for starting pitching answers behind their best guys, and who is going to tax their bullpen at some point. They're going to burn that bullpen out. I think you can feel pretty good, even as good as you can feel. If you told me at the beginning of the month they were going to go 12-15, I don't know that I would have felt great about their chances, at least in the Central.
Yeah.
I would have felt okay about them as a wild card team and that chase continuing. But I feel good about the way the month ended, the way they played against Cleveland. I still think it's a race in the AL Central, and the Royals are going to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think winning 3 out of 4 helped there. And we got a text on the Top City Metal Supply text line. Maybe Saturday loss may not have happened if they got that home run call correct.
Yeah, and if that was a game changer, as we talked about earlier in the show, that doesn't happen and they get a sweep and they're 6 back and they go 13-14 in the month. Yeah, it does. The month feels a lot different if they found a way to win that game.
I hope that I talked about this earlier in the show. I hope the momentum continues for this Royals team. They have done a great job. Seth Lugo was a case study in this a little bit earlier on in the show, that in starts where he's followed Cole Reagans and Reagans has struggled, which has been very rarely, Lugo has been great. And even the couple of times when Lugo has been pedestrian, he's come back his next time out and been sensational. This Royals team has really impressed me in their resilience. It would be very easy for this team to not have any of that. And I wouldn't even blame them, so to speak, because going into this year, your first year where you're trying to claw out of this hole, to be where they are is amazing, first things first. But given how much of like they were like a beaten dog the last few years, I would not have been surprised to have seen, like lost 8 of 10, lost 5 in a row. Yeah, they got some work to do. There's been good, but it's a growing process. They haven't dealt with that. They have been super resilient. It's not something I thought we would see from this team. And I think this is a great example of that this past month. No, 12-15 is not ideal, but you had all those wins early. You're still in a great spot. You're still deep in the wild card hunt. You are still alive in the division, and you could make up some more games. Trenton has brought it up before that the schedule for the Guardians gets way tougher once you get past the midway point of the season and past the All-Star break, after they've had one of the easiest in baseball until now. It's all still in front of you. And I think the Royals should be happy about that. And I think that resilience is a big reason why. And this month kind of was a microcosm of what they've showed all year in that regard. We have more 580 Sports Talk to get to in a minute. First, though, I want to tell you to go check out my friends at Calhoun's Jewelers here in Topeka. You have heard me talk about the fine folks at Calhoun's for years. All they have done for me, for my wife, for our family, whether it is just simply going in to talk with everybody there, get the rings cleaned, buying our wedding bands, buying my wife's engagement ring. They were able to do that and so much more. And they can help you find a gift that will last a lifetime as well. You can check out my friends at 1801 Southwest Gage Boulevard here in Topeka, or you can visit them online at calhounsjewelers.com. We've got more 580 Sports Talk coming up right after this on 580 WIBW. Final few minutes of 580 Sports Talk here, live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Brendan, Dan, Spencer, Trenton. When are you guys going to get your NBA Max contract? Because everyone's getting one now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there are some teams that are a little concerned about my contract's impact on the second apron.
It's like, I get it. NFL contracts are huge too, obviously, and there's so much money that gets pumped into the NFL. NBA contracts, with the money they're going to get from their new TV deals and with still regional deals that might go away soon, but for now they have them, and all the advertising money and all of that. And you have so many fewer players. You have, 15 per roster at most in the NBA?
Yeah, 15 is the max.
So, yeah, you've got maybe 450 players on NBA contracts at any given time in the NBA versus nearly 1,700 in the NFL. Obviously, there's going to be a change. Like, Max Christie is a nobody in the NBA, and he got $32 million guaranteed in full. 4 years, $32 million from the Lakers. Jason Tatum, who's a star, he's champion now. He is about to sign, according to multiple sources, I believe at this point, He is about to sign the richest contract in NBA history for $314 million, fully guaranteed. It's crazy. It is absolutely insane. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, you got the money, it's got to go to someone. I'm glad the players are getting it.
Yeah.
But you see these dollar amounts and they're absurd. It makes quarterback money look paltry by comparison.
It really does. You used to say play baseball when you look at the some of the deals baseball players got.
Mhm.
Now, like, backup bigs get fifth starter money.
It's that Mozgov money. The NBA said they're not going to do that anymore. No more cap spikes. They're going to find a way to eliminate the Mozgov contracts from the future. Do you remember how big of a deal it was when Kyler Murray picked football? Like, do you remember discussing that on the show?
Firmly, yes.
Constantly.
I said he better be really good at football. Turns out he is. So,
yeah. I would always just lean with, if you're good at both and you think you're going to play in the majors or the pros in both, just do what you prefer. Because, are you going to probably get some sort of like head damage at some point in football? Probably. I mean, it's unavoidable. But the football, you get the money right away and you get to be, you get advertisements and endorsements right away. Baseball, if you're good, it's not too long. But Bobby Witt was in the minors for 2 years, 2 full years, 3 full years. So, it takes a while to get your payday in MLB. We have to get to one final timeout. We'll pay the bills. We'll come on back. We'll wrap up 580 Sports Talk with today's final word. Thank you, Steppenwolf. It is time for our final word on 580 Sports Talk today. Dan Lucero, you are up first.
I know the Royals are still 7 games back, but I think Cleveland's there for the taking. I don't think their starting pitching is good enough. They signed Matthew Boyd to take a rotation spot.
Oh, shoot, what up?
Yeah, that guy hasn't pitched effectively in the major leagues in 5 years. And they brought him in because they feel like he can upgrade what they've already got. I think they're going to burn out their bullpen, and their starting pitching I don't think has the legs. And the Royals proved this weekend that they can go get them. So the American League Central, very much up for grabs, and I think the Royals are good enough to be a part of that race.
Spencer?
I echo his thoughts, and I'm going to use my one time this week to insert my own fandom here. I'm so excited to watch James Wood make his debut tonight for the Washington Nationals. this just goes to show. I think they're ahead. They're ahead of schedule right now.
I like the optimism.
Yeah,
That's good. We said it last week. There is nothing like when someone gets called up.
exactly.
It is something you do not have in any other sport. Enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the debut tonight. My final word today, big day for the Kansas State Wildcats. I think a fitting way to wrap things up today. Linkon Cure, the highest rated commit in K-State football history. I think most of us knew. Trenton even admitted his KU belief that he was going there was delusional in his own words. But it's a big day for K-State, their best recruit ever. It's going to be a while before we see him linking up with I did not do that intentionally, with Avery Johnson in Manhattan. But once he gets there, I think he can contribute right away. And I think he has a chance to be, I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but a chance to be an all-time K-Stater once he gets to campus. The show is back tomorrow. Dan, Spencer, and Trenton will have you tomorrow for 580 Sports Talk. Michael Swain is going to join the program. Plenty of college football, NFL, MLB, all to get to coming up tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. Check out the podcast, 580WIBW.com, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Go subscribe there as well. For Trenton Kraxner, for Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. Thanks as always for listening today to 580 Sports Talk.